John G. Do. Dan Garman's joining pretty soon. Just kidding. Yeah, we are connected to Rumble. So that being said, I think we're all systems go everywhere.
Let's get it on.
Get it on.
It must be quite apparent by this time to any thinking individual that the people of our country and people of other countries all over the world are coming to face a moment of grave decision. A time when we will choose the course of our future.
Oklahoma, Texas, New York, Philadelphia, around the world, it's gonna be a big nut bust.
The Millennial Media Offensive podcast is now live.
Right you are. Today's January 6, 2026. You're listening to MMO number 201, and from the great city and state of St. Louis, Missouri, I'm Dan Gehring.
And from America's South Coast, where everyone is singing, bad boys, what you gonna do? I'm John G. Do.
Oh, is Cops back on? They took it off the air.
Did you see the new? Did you see the new episode this weekend?
No. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yes, I did. Epic. Although I was waiting for him to say, I didn't do nothing.
How would you say that in Spanish?
No haces nada.
No haces nada.
No, that's not right. That's not correct. No hace nada. Yeah. In the past. I don't know. No hace nada.
Sure, that's what we'll say anyway. So I just noticed that my level on Clean Feed broke up into the clipping range. Are we good on audio for this?
Yeah, you sound good. You sound good on my end.
Okay. All right. Good. I'll try not to yell. But you know, when a communist dictator gets deposed, I get a little excited. I can't help it.
Yeah, that is, I'm surprised you saw that story. It's barely touched in the...
I know, it's like they're trying to hide it.
Yeah, I mean, wall-to-wall coverage. No hice nada is the proper translation. Thank you.
No hice nada.
No hice nada. Yeah, so
Go ahead, put a early marker there.
Wall-to-wall coverage on the media of that this week. And you couldn't escape it. I think it's good. I get a lot of emails. A lot of people are excited for tonight's show. Even like people that don't really listen. They're like, hey, you still doing that podcast? What do you think about this? Like, all right, yeah, I'll tune in for it. So a lot of
it's only 201 episodes.
Right. They know. People are like, how do you know all this stuff? I was like, well, you know, when you have a show and you kind of dedicate yourself to talking about it all the time, you kind of stay in the loop.
You feel a slight obligation to know something.
Right. Actually, so I mean, I've been racking my head about this scenario. People, I think the problem is a lot of the analysis that you're seeing on the news and the mainstream media, people are saying it's black and white and it's all about this. And they're like labeling it. It's clearly about this. And I think it's oversimplistic. I think that's what we kind of desire as human beings, is oversimplistic scenarios.
Of course.
Right. So they want the quick answer of this is what it's about. Now I know. And now I can, analyze this point, attack this point.
Well, we were even gifted the left and right talking points, and we're given them in almost every discussion. Well, it's about drugs, and we need to protect the border. Well, actually, it's about the oil, and Trump even said so. We've been handed on a silver platter the dividing line in American politics. And that is enough for most people. They don't care to look any deeper into the situation. Now, you may get some real intellectuals who will say, well, he should have consulted Congress, and that was illegal. It was illegal. And, whether they're right or not is another thing, but that's basically the extent of the discussion in the mainstream.
Right. So, I mean, I think just for documentation sake, we are talking about the, depending on what side of the aisle you're from, the abduction of Maduro from Venezuela through a pretty stellar military Operation Absolute Resolve. I've got some clips about this that kind of break down the minute by minute as to the actual military operation. If you
Oh,
want to
good,
start
because
there.
I couldn't really find a good rundown. I have one, but it's only a minute from the AP, and I literally titled it "Quick Rundown." But if you've got a minute by minute rundown, I really want to hear that and document that for, like you said, posterity's sake.
Right. Okay. So this came from Cappy Army. He's a gentleman. I've mentioned him before. I brought a couple of clips of him on my solo show that I did a couple weeks ago. And he effectively is an old Army guy, so he's really good at analyzing this stuff. I appreciate his perspective. He brings in the actual military equipment that's used. He tries to present it in a fun way. I usually find that humor kind of cringy, so I cut out the most I can. But I like this because it goes back, the 4 months to when the actual operation started 4 months ago, and then brings it through the minute by minute infiltration and exfiltration. So it's just 4 clips here, and then a couple of theories as to why it was successful, or why the thing happened. So without further ado, here is the raid of Venezuela to secure Maduro.
The first thing you need to know is the American raid really started 4 months ago, with what's called Phase 1 shaping operations. It began in August when a group of CIA officers were secretly inserted on the ground into the country. They created intelligence packets that tracked Venezuelan President Maduro's movements down to the hour, and they operated a fleet of stealth drones that sent constant live updates, professionally stalking his position. The clandestine operation developed what's called a pattern of life, which is fancy intelligence speak for what we would call a daily routine. This way, intelligence officers narrowed down Maduro's location to Fort Tiona military complex, the large base that lies just south of the capital of Caracas, where 3 million people live. On Saturday, January 3rd, 2026, in the dead of night at 2 a.m. local time, the U.S. government gave the green light on Operation Codename Absolute Resolve. The U.S. military launched a wave of targeted missile strikes all across the capital city. Oh boy, here I go toppling again. Bombs were launched from 20 different bases and ships. The ground assault element chosen for the raid was 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, and somewhat surprisingly, law enforcement from FBI agents from the hostage rescue team were also embedded alongside them to arrest Maduro. The bold tactics used for the insertion method shocked many military analysts. Reportedly, 11 American helicopters from the elite 160th SOAR Night Stalkers were deployed to spearhead this raid. SOAR is like the stunt drivers, but for helicopters, and they're loaded with like 300 special operators in the back. The team launched from the USS Iwo Jima Navy amphibious assault ship that's parked just a few miles off the coast of Venezuela. They flew low, only about 100 feet above the Caribbean Sea, to avoid enemy radar detection.
So there you go. We had CIA operators on the ground 4 months ago, and they were pretty much tracking Maduro and gaining his routine. And it goes all the way up to the actual night of the raid, where the helicopters flew low to avoid radar detection.
I think there's something that hasn't been answered, and maybe I just haven't found it. That's a real possibility given the time frame from this happening to this show. I've heard several times that the helicopters and the missiles both came from amphibious vehicles and bases. Which of our bases were involved in this? Would it have been Puerto Rico? I don't think can a helicopter make it from Puerto Rico to Caracas? The Virgin Islands, we've got a base there.
The helicopters didn't come from Puerto Rico. They came from the ships that we had spent the last month.
But I have specifically heard helicopters and missiles from bases and ships.
I thought it was only missiles from bases, and I'm not exactly sure on the
okay,
context of that.
let's assume that's true. Still, what bases? We have bases in Netherlands territories, Curacao and Aruba. We have bases there, but I'm not sure they host missiles.
Is Guantanamo Bay just a prison, or is it a military base?
It's an installation. I don't think it's a missile silo.
Okay, so he will do a couple of he'll answer a couple of questions like, why weren't there any sort of air defenses that Venezuela supposedly had? Why didn't any of the helicopters get shot down and that stuff up next? So Effectively, we've gone from CIA infiltrating to the helicopters leaving the ship and flying low over the sea underneath the radar. And now we're going to get into the next kind of phase of the operation and how they were able to come in, and seemingly no one knew it at the time.
Then they traveled the dangerous stretch of 10 miles over land from the northern shores to Fort Tiuna. They came under fire en route. One helicopter was reportedly damaged, but it was still able to remain operational. As the air assault flew across the capital, explosions erupted behind them, and it was uploaded live onto X. The operators used the MH-47G Chinooks and the MH-60L, which are special variant helicopters which have unique countermeasures. Then they approached the base, and the Ocean's 11-style raid began. Raiding this complex is an extraordinarily risky job to even undertake. Fort Tiuna has hardened concrete gates. There are pillboxes built into the mountain right there with firing positions on the high ground, armed guard towers, and continuous 24/7 patrols. It's sort of like Venezuela's version of the Pentagon. You can see here it's built right into the side of the mountain to give defenders the height advantage, as well as being able to dig deep underground. Its perimeter is pretty large. It's got about 2 miles wide by 4 miles long. Intelligence reports estimate that 5,000 of Maduro's most elite soldiers are assigned to this post. According to reports, Maduro constantly moved around the country, changing where he slept each night and throwing out burner phones to avoid being tracked to this location. But the base's defenses were defeated partly because starting in mid-December, U.S. Cyber Command laid the groundwork by targeting the power infrastructure, planting malware in their systems. When Cyber Command flipped the switch, it turned the lights off in the country, completely killing electricity to the base and large parts of the capital city. This cut off communications and made coordinating any kind of response extremely difficult. So the soldiers disembarked from the helicopters, the commandos hit the ground, and headed directly to the on-base house that Maduro was holed up in. U.S. General Kane said that the raiding force came under direct fire, which prompted American forces to respond with, quote, overwhelming force and self-defense, end quote. Intelligence officers on the ground with the team helped them navigate the compound. They provided intel to this breaching team ahead of time that revealed that there would be thick, solid steel doors protecting Maduro. This information came from sources close to Maduro's inner circle. He had a kind of panic room that was completely sealed off. So operators brought explosive breaching charges and buzzsaws, and they were prepared to break through. Meanwhile, outside, the American direct action penetrator helicopter laid down close air support suppressing fire.
So we didn't really...
I know you have something you want to mention here. I heard the bell.
Yeah.
But I want to clarify for the audience about my question on the missiles. The confusion comes in because we had missiles, cruise missiles like Tomahawks fired from naval vessels, but other missiles were fired from drones, fixed wing, and helicopters. So that's where the bit of a conflation of cruise missiles and air-to-surface missiles comes in.
Sure. I rang the bell because it was Maduro's inner circle, which I think is an important detail. And, you know, we'll get into it after all this whole infiltration and exfiltration discussion. But I think a lot of things imply that there was a serious Benedict Arnold among the ranks of
well, wasn't it the vice president?
That's what I'm hoping. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Because she has been in contact with a bunch of people. But so that's kind of the penetration. I think it's interesting, the grid hacks that we've mentioned. You know, oftentimes when I think about the grid hacks, I think about China doing it to us. We've talked about that infrastructure tit for tat that we thought might happen with all these factories blowing up in the United States. That was our theory anyway, and now it turns out we're actually very good at doing that as well, knocking out entire power grids. Probably more successful in third world countries than not, but I have an example of a first world country having its grid knocked out tonight as well. So who knows? But I thought that was interesting because we're clearly probably pretty capable of knocking anyone offline, and it makes you wonder how many other countries we have malware installed in, just sitting waiting. Okay.
Yeah, and to clarify a little bit on that point, we have pointed out in the past that when we were seeing what we called tit for tat factory fires and industrial sabotage between the U.S. and Russia, a lot of the instances in the U.S., and we couldn't get a lot of details about the ones in Russia, but a lot of the instances in the U.S. sounded to us like it could have been cyber sabotage, overloading capacitors and things like that with with commands, basically remote commands.
Right. Yeah, executing bash commands. Make Venezuela dark, and it was dark. Probably not as simple, but
yeah,
probably not as much once it's the malware is installed. Probably not as more complex than running a command, I'd imagine.
Right.
So then comes the exfiltration. So they get in the building, they grab Maduro before he can hit his safe room, and then they have to exfiltrate.
But then Hilo started taking fire from enemy man-portable Igla air defense missiles. In response, pilots deployed their XM-216 dark flares. These defeat incoming missiles while staying invisible to the human eye. Delta Force finally breached into Maduro's on-base residence and found him. According to reports from CNN, who spoke to sources close to the raid, operators dragged Maduro out of bed, zip-tied, and blindfolded him while he was in the middle of sleeping. Then they led Maduro and his wife outside onto the Chinook helicopters and started flying back. Some Venezuelan military officer who gave away their location and was a source to the CIA just got $50 million in reward money. But this was only half the mission because the operators still had to safely
Which is an assumption on his behalf, I believe.
extract. It was vital to the mission mandate that they capture him alive. If Maduro was somehow killed en route or during exfiltration, it would look like America had ordered an assassination mission, which would cause all kinds of additional legal trouble. This was one of the most geopolitically sensitive missions that I can think of in recent history. They had kicked the hornet's nest. The whole freaking country was coming down on them now. The question on every Delta Force operator's mind on the way back was, could they trust U.S. air power to cover their exfiltration? On their way out of Venezuela, the U.S. air power continued to strike strategic military installations across the country to create a diversion for them to safely escape. F-22 Raptors, F-35 stealth fighters, F-18s, radar aircraft, and B-1 Lancer bombers participated in the attacks. They hit bases all over in the states of La Guerra, Miranda, and Aragua. This was to create multiple dilemmas. This was achieved thanks to an air campaign that had been happening simultaneously overhead that achieved air supremacy. The operation reportedly involved 150 American fighter aircraft that had the goal of complete and total control of the skies. Fighter aircraft launched long-range precision missiles. Large explosions were heard across the capital. Local language news reporting stated that these explosions targeted air defense radar antennas. This was a massive seed operation, suppression of enemy air defenses.
So we gained immediate air superiority, knocked out any ability for them to respond. There's a couple of ideas that the F-35s were flying in and knocked out the Russian missile systems, and that some of the helicopters even had laser beams that you could shine directly into the missile systems and pretty much inoculate them, make sure they couldn't find any targets whatsoever, or disable them.
One of the major selling points of the F-35 is its electronic warfare capability, so that is a real possibility.
And so that's the kind of idea. We gained air superiority, and they couldn't respond whatsoever. Another theory is it was a complete inside job, and Maduro himself even turned himself over, is another theory that I've heard, which are all...
Well, there were sources reporting to Reuters immediately after the fact that it was what was described as a, quote, negotiated exit.
Yeah, the sources were the opposition leaders, and that was reported to, I believe, The Guardian. They said it was a negotiated exit, which is one of the things that you want to control that narrative. If you're the opposition leader, say he sold you out, he's not good, to turn his own party against him, cause chaos within that party.
Well, here's the thing. If it was a negotiated exit, they don't say who was the negotiating party. It could have been the opposition with significant pull in the military to tell their faction in the military stand down. Whatever happens tonight, stand down. And then the U.S. would only have to look for activity and monitor for activity and strike those positions, which, if it was a significant faction, it would probably cut down your necessary surface-to-air missile targets and man-pad targets by, I would say, at least 30%, which is very significant. So it could have been negotiated. It could have been negotiated with the opposition party, or factions within the government that wanted Maduro out. Didn't necessarily have to be negotiated with Maduro.
That's true. That's true. The only thing that makes me think it could be Maduro is how he behaved once he was captured. Kind of, saying Happy New Year, good night, giving the thumbs up in photos with DEA officers. I don't know. I don't know if it's just, him portraying that he's not scared, or if it's a guy that's already got a deal cut and set. And the fact that they also brought his wife, too, who was not previously charged with the kind of the same drug stuff that Maduro was charged with, that they had recently brought those charges in a sealed indictment against her and then brought her out. It's a little sketchy, So I don't know. No one really knows. But when you mentioned Delcy Rodriguez, I have a similar feeling that she was the mastermind behind this as well. Well, at least the insider that set up Maduro.
Definitely the beneficiary.
Absolutely. She now becomes the president of Venezuela. And she's got a powerful brother in Congress as well.
Who is that?
Someone, I'm trying to remember his name, but I think he's involved in the oil development.
Now, see, this is an interesting angle that I don't have any clips about, but I've heard more and more and more about it. The alarm has been raised in certain circles on the left that the U.S. didn't feel the need to notify Congress, but they notified the oil companies. And what that was the U.S. notifying certain companies with people in the area that they should probably just lay low during this time on this date, because they didn't want any collateral damage, especially not from Americans. And what I've also seen, we've seen the thing now about Trump saying it's our oil. They stole our oil. We should have done something about it at the time. They stole the development that our companies pioneered in the country, and the U.S. oil companies are going to develop Venezuela. So there is something to this oil connection in Venezuela,
Absolutely.
obviously, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting that you say that you think her brother in Congress has connections with the oil industry.
Yeah, Jorge Rodriguez is his name, and I think I've heard, because I've watched a lot of news over the last few days, that he's somehow involved with, local committee for supply and production CLAP program. Effectively, he's pretty much saw the downfall of the oil production within Venezuela over the past couple of years. He was headed to it or the head of this CLAP organization in 2017 and 18, and has been sitting on the board. So he's somehow involved with oil in Venezuela. And this is the new Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, or the new President Delcy Rodriguez, his brother. But a lot of the emails and the questions that I got was, effectively it boiled down to, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And I think the jury is still out on that, for me, at least, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. There's a lot of things that need to happen correctly, or there's a lot of things that need to go right in these next couple of weeks, years, and months, before I can make a whole decision on that. But I think if those do, it's an absolute great thing. But my heart is telling me I don't know if we have the competence in government, or will ever have the competence in government for those things to go right. So it might end up being an absolute terrible thing. what I've got, and I don't know how you want to handle this. I think there's multiple pillars involved in this, in why it was done, and potential opportunities that can arise out of it.
Present away.
Very well. So I think the big one is concerning the oil. The oil play, in my opinion, what I'm seeing is a preservation of the concept of the petrodollar. For those unfamiliar, the petrodollar is effectively an agreement of oil-producing nations, and they agree to price and sell petroleum exclusively in U.S. dollars, which in turn creates a constant global demand for U.S. dollar. And it doesn't matter if we have trade imbalances or whatnot, because of there's the demand for the dollar, we can keep printing the dollar, and pretty much keep the in-debt empire afloat. And we've
Which goes hand in hand with Trump saying that he wants his new Federal Reserve chair to get rates back down to 1%.
Right. So it is more lucrative to borrow USD, and it's more attractive. The reason that's kind of a threat is, you see countries like under Joe Biden, Saudi Arabia decided it was no longer going to renew its exclusive contract of selling its oil in the global markets in only petrodollars. It's now going to accept yuan, Chinese yuan, and maybe even rubles for oil. And so you see this kind of alternative dollar arise for the oil markets. And because of that, it's a major threat to the United States way of life, how we've lived. And I think since the 1970s, I think is when the petrodollar emerged. So pretty much for the past 50 years, that's how we've existed, is through the petrodollar and in creating this constant demand for USD. And so with the concept of getting Venezuela's crude oil back online, we now have a source potentially of constant oil supplied through petrodollar. And I think that's got to be a key agreement in order for this gambit to pay off. So that's one kind of approach. China obviously is highly involved in Venezuela, so I think this is also kind of bites at China as well.
There was a Chinese delegation in the country when we carried out the raid.
I think the timing of that was no accident.
No, I don't either. Now go back and tell Xi Jinping what you saw here.
That too, and I think it was also a preventative, because we had this naval blockade. I think China got wind that we were probably going to do something. And so the Chinese delegates go there, and they're probably about to issue a joint statement. This is complete speculation on my behalf. And before China can make a joint statement about the sovereignty of Venezuela and any sort of security agreement type thing, we attack immediately.
We come in thumping.
And I think that's why Congress wasn't notified too.
Well, Congress wasn't notified because that's a thing of the past.
Right.
I mean,
Patriot Act and George W. Bush. That's the end of it.
Yeah, you give Congress a courtesy call, thanks. And Trump's like, well, why would we even do that? We don't have to do that.
Right. And that's what my coworker asked me today. She's like, how do you feel about Congress not being notified? And I said exactly that. I said, since the Patriot Act, since George W. Bush, none of that applies anymore. All of those.
That doesn't mean that it's excusable if you believe and support the U.S. Constitution. It's not, but it's nothing new.
Right. Absolutely. So that's the petrodollar, creating our future demand. The second kind of pillar or prong. Let me see. I think I have a clip about these pillars a little bit. This is my own theory. I just took people that were saying it was one thing or another, saying they're sort of right, but not entirely right. So this gentleman talks about the petrodollar and kind of his belief is this is the only reason the U.S. attacked Venezuela. I'll play this about the petrodollar before I move on to the next pillar.
If you turn on the television today, you will see the same looping footage. You will see helicopters, you will see special forces, you will see the dramatic extraction of a Latin American leader. The media is calling it a victory for democracy. They are calling it a restoration of order. They are analyzing the tactical brilliance of the raid and the political fallout in Washington.
Those last 2 points are correct. The whole democracy thing, absolutely no one was saying that a victory for democracy.
But as
Yeah, no.
always, they are showing you the circus so you do not look at the bank vault. What happened in Venezuela
The what?
today
The
was
what?
not a political
vault.
operation.
They're
It was
showing
not
you the
about
what?
human rights.
They're showing you the circus so you do not look at the bank vault, is what he says.
Okay. I don't like that saying, but okay.
Yeah, I think he's from Alabama. He's got a little bit of a southern accent there.
What happened in
I don't
Venezuela
think he
today
is.
was not a political operation. It was not about human rights. It was not even really about Nicolás Maduro. It was a margin call. To understand why the United States just took the extreme risk of launching a military operation in South America, you do not need to look at the polls or the Constitution. You need to look at a much more boring, much more terrifying chart. The United States Strategic Petroleum Reserve. For the last 3 years, the United States has been draining its emergency oil tanks to artificially lower the price of gas. They have been selling the family silver to pay the rent. The reserve is now at its lowest level since the 1980s. At the same time, the petrodollar, the system that forces the world to buy oil in US currency, is on life support. Saudi Arabia has refused to renew its exclusive agreement. The BRICS nations are trading energy in yuan and local currencies.
Pretty much everything I just told you there, but I did like the strategic oil reserve reference. I forgot about that in the clip. So that's the petrodollar explained. That's one prong. The second one is kind of an anti-BRICS southern firewall. And this is really getting China and Russia out of South America as best we can, getting BRICS out of South America. Obviously, the B is Brazil, so that's going to be a tough one. I don't think we're going to topple Brazil anytime soon.
I don't think we need to, though.
No. Basically, we've locked Brazil, the BRICS, completely out of the Caribbean Sea. We've created that top defense layer. So Brazil is now...
And also removed their energy dominance. I mean, how many times have you heard Trump say energy dominance?
Exactly. Their energy dominance. And Cuba is another issue. Trump even came out and said it. But Cuba is going to pretty much go by way of that what we were seeing in Iran last week and still this week. Is there's going to be massive adjustments, hyperinflation in Cuba because of how important Venezuela was to them previously. And I think Trump predicted it right. Cuba itself will fall because of Venezuela if we are able to properly control Venezuela. Again, this is a major if there is actually a plan, if Delcy Rodriguez is the inside person, and if these agreements were reached before we went in and seized Maduro. That is another one of the prongs. A third one, and I'm not so crazy about this prong, but I do want to mention it because it is a thought, is Venezuela has created sort of a very large crypto market. They themselves have their own digital currency that they deal in. So if we take control of Venezuela in a true sense, it might be a good place to test run our central bank digital currency. And I don't say that as a positive light. It's just an opportunity that arises for the U.S. government to do. So they would have no domestic pushback on that. They'd be able to see how it would operate in real time before bringing it to the American market. Again, I'm not a fan of that. Just something I want to point out. But, I think with that, with the digital currency and with the securing the Western Hemisphere, that's a major one. That's why now everyone's turning to where could Trump attack? I saw a map today. Is where could Trump attack next? And it highlighted Mexico, Greenland, Iran. Mexico and Greenland is just absolutely a joke. After this Venezuelan thing, the actual media talking heads are really concerned that we're actually going to go into Greenland. I can tell you that's probably not going to happen.
No, and I have some Greenland clips if we want to revisit this.
We can. I just have one more kind of pillar that I think is a major component to the whole Venezuelan thing. And of these pillars, I think we can dive into each of them. I've got more clips about this whole event that happened that I kind of want to snake in. But like one of the last major pillars, I think, is the Iran-Hezbollah financial cutoff. One of the things that Venezuela did for Iran was kind of launder its gold. So Iran has really nice gold. And because of the sanctions on it, it would actually send gold to Venezuela. Venezuela would mark it as Venezuelan gold and would be able to trade it in markets, and money would flow back to Iran and back to Hezbollah, of course, operating in Lebanon as a shadow terrorist group of Iran. And so it's a real major component of Iran's economy. It's a node on the shadow banking front of Iran. And so with Venezuela gone now, you see these protests and the economy tanking in Iran. You saw it ahead of time when the pretty much oil blockade went into effect almost immediately. The talking heads on the news will tell you that Iran, it's just because of the sanctions. It's like, well, why, the sanctions didn't change recently. Why all of a sudden did the sanctions hit? I think it has a lot to do with Venezuela being tied up and not being able to be the shadow bank for Iran. So I think Iran is part of this play. And I think that gave way to, all right, are the Jews involved? Is this Israel as well? And, that's a question mark there. So this is just kind of like my thought process. I've done SWOT analysis. I've thought about, these possible pillars of impact of the Venezuela. If everything goes right, I think these pillars play out, and it's a 5D chess move. If I'm just completely speculating, and really we only went as far as securing Maduro from Venezuela, then could be a rough road ahead.
I still am partial to our domino theory. This was not only the emergence of the Monroe Doctrine, which I'm really glad he has coined a new phrase and isn't saying Monroe Doctrine because of my little hissy fit over Monroe Doctrine last episode. He even says in the press conference, Trump that is, says we've superseded Monroe Doctrine, and he's absolutely right. This is not an example of what Monroe Doctrine is in spirit or in practice. And the fact of the matter is that the U.S. at the time couldn't afford to enact an aggressive regime change anywhere in the Western Hemisphere, and we largely relied on the Brits to help us keep other European influence out of the Western Hemisphere. But I'm glad that he's taken and coined a new phrase for this, because it is different than Monroe Doctrine. It's Monroe Doctrine. So not only do you get the emergence of Monroe Doctrine, where you get to secure the energy dominance that Trump has so many times mentioned, but also you get to start this cascading effect that directly affects Iran and China and probably indirectly affects Russia.
Yeah. So, I mean, with those larger powers of Iran and Russia and China, because China kind of gets starved of the oil, it really is a shame, because Glenn Beck is out there and everyone's sharing this. This is the best breakdown I've seen of this. And it sucks, because Glenn Beck said a lot of the same stuff that I probably just mentioned. It really sucks when you have this idea and then you have to wait till Tuesday to deliver it, and then everyone else has gotten in there. You're like, shit.
You can always write an article.
You can. And so one of the thinking techniques that I've used is with using Claude and AI in general.
And, oh boy.
Well, it's not like, hey,
we've lost him, folks.
Generate why this happened. It's more of like explore this relationship, and how could this possibly impact that? And through Claude, that's how I understood how Iran uses gold and kind of uses Venezuela as a shadow banking system. And sure enough, looking deeper into that is indeed the case to circumvent. And so Iran is directly impacted by this, and that's where the whole "is this Israel" comes into effect. And I mean, hell, even General Keane on Fox News thinks that Israel benefits from this, even if it was a Freudian slip. Did you hear that clip?
Yeah, I did hear it, and I had it bookmarked, and I did not get it. He says it's great for Israel.
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So that operation, while certainly bold and daring, didn't have the complications that this operation had as well. But look at the implications here. are really great for the Venezuelan people.
Oops.
Oops. Well, you know, I really think, and it's easy to kind of brush off Jack Keane as just the regular Fox News talking head, and a lot of times he doesn't say much, but I think he is at least read in with the administration to a minimum degree, and that's why, you know, it comes along with the territory of being the go-to retired military commander for Fox News, the military. Well, what do you call it when you have somebody that comes on? Anyway, you kind of get fed things when you're in roles like that, and you get read into certain things. And I think they're reading people in on a need-to-know basis about how this was, in fact, an attempt to start a domino effect, to put pressure on Iran. And I think they sell it in the two ways that I've described. We get to control it. We no longer have these threats to national security in our backyard. Mission accomplished. They're gone. And we get to apply more pressure to Iran, China, and Russia with this one move. And I think that's why he said the implications are great for the Israel, Venezuelan people, because it is great for Israel.
Yeah. I mean, in short, it is. I can continue to watch the Iranian protests. Let's stick with Venezuela because I do want to talk about Iran.
Yes, and I have plenty of Iran clips to set you up.
Perfect.
But let me play some of my Venezuela clips.
Sure.
I have a bit of the quick rundown from the AP isn't going to tell us anything we haven't already talked about. I don't think the quasi rundown from CBS is either. And then I've got another clip of just some speculation from a CBS contributor. I really want to get into these Stephen Miller clips. Stephen Miller goes on CNN and is being interviewed by Jake Tapper. And Stephen Miller, as always, says some interesting things.
Yeah.
And the first one that I have is the Stephen Miller describing the Cuban Guard in Venezuela.
So a source briefed on the Venezuelan operation told me that a handful of American troops sustained bullet and shrapnel wounds, but none are life-threatening. Can you share with us how serious any injuries to American service members might be, and also any information you can tell us about any Venezuelan civilian casualties?
Yes. Well, let me take the second part first, which is that the overwhelming share of casualties and fatalities that were inflicted were against the Cuban Guard that had exerted control over the people of Venezuela. So what many don't realize is that for years, Maduro stayed in power through an illicit deal with Cuban communists to provide his security because he didn't trust his own people to keep him safe. That is how much he was hated inside of Venezuela. So what our special forces encountered when they did that daring midnight assault into Caracas were armed Cuban guards, and they sustained massive numbers of casualties. I can't give you an exact number. The numbers that you've seen in terms of the Cuban guards publicly reported are probably lower than the actual number that were killed.
So this gives credence to the idea that there was a negotiation with insiders that had sway over the actual Venezuelan military, which explains why you were able to fly helicopters in and not have them shot down by anti-air missiles, because you would have to bombard the air defense systems of Venezuela for longer than a few minutes to keep helicopters from being shot out of the sky by surface-to-air systems. So this, to me, this explains a lot. You have the faction, right. Basically Maduro's Praetorian Guard, according to Miller, were the only ones still truly loyal, and it's because they were hired to be, and that's the only resistance that we had to be concerned about. Now, if that's like the case, then you also have the fact that we have probably imposed all of our wildest dreams on the beneficiaries of this arrest.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're going to make this happen, but here's a list of everything we want, and if you step out of line, you see what we can do.
You'll be next. I
Yep.
do like that theory.
And Trump even said that. He even said it
might be worse for her.
Yeah, it might be worse for her. Yeah. So he knows she's a bit of a wild card, and he's reminding her.
Yeah, so to confirm that, Cuba says 32 of its combatants were killed in the U.S. raid to capture Maduro. On top of that, in the Cappy Army clips I played, part of the section that I cut out was that military analysts were pretty much amazed that we would use helicopters in this operation because they're relatively slow in modern warfare and pretty large targets for missile systems, and so that would bode well with if we're only talking about these Cuban militants that were hired to protect Maduro and the military stood down. That could be another reason why we chose large, slow helicopters. And it could also be kind of a wink nod to other people around the world, meaning other militaries, other countries, that this was an inside job. We have Venezuela entirely. Don't even try.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So and now we're going to get a little bit of Stephen Miller's famous fluff pieces, talking a little bit more about the casualties, fluff and casualties.
To your first question, no, none of the, at least as I've been briefed, none of the injuries are life-threatening. Everybody is stable. And it just underscores the remarkable skill, precision, courage, and capability of our special forces. And I wanted to set the table one more time for your audience. I'm sure you've talked about it at length already.
Set the table.
But the United States of America launched an assault force into Venezuelan territory, which has sophisticated air defense systems, which has sophisticated surveillance systems, which has weaponry that they've received that can take out planes and helicopters from our foreign adversaries that they've been stockpiling for years in anticipation of the possibility of such an action. Maduro was staying in a military fortress. In other words, since the United States had started amassing this armada under President Trump's leadership and direction, he'd increasingly narrowed the scope of his own movement, and he was sleeping in a fortress.
Yeah,
and so
it's very impressive. It's very impressive, Steve.
These special forces engage in direct gunfire with elite Cuban guards, and every single kill was an enemy kill.
So there were no civilian casualties?
Well, I didn't see any reports of any civilian casualties. But my point is that in this raging gunfire battle that took place, the point that I'm making to you is no Americans were killed. Because of the planning, skill, and preparation, the enemy sustained massive losses. Not one of our assets was lost, not one of our people was lost.
Thank you for setting the table, Steve. The forks
Not
go
one
on
of
the
our
left.
assets or people.
Yeah, military. I see what you're saying with that. Is like boots in the ground are assets, or is he talking about military equipment?
It's vague.
It is vague.
Okay, this is a bit of a. This one, I had to listen to this one a couple times, and I think you can take it at face value. This is nobody supported the op.
So let's talk about what next. Delcy Rodriguez was formally sworn as Venezuela's acting president this afternoon. She was the vice president. She described the U.S. intervention as, quote, without a doubt, Zionist in character, unquote.
I didn't hear that.
Is acting President Rodriguez someone that the U.S. can work with?
So the acting president put out a statement. I want to say, Jake, it was last night, pledging cooperation with the United States, pledging full and complete cooperation.
But they also just passed a law saying that if you supported the operation, outlawing individuals or threatening with criminal penalties individuals if they supported the operation against Maduro. I think they did that today.
Well, the good news there, Jake, is that nobody inside of Venezuela supported the operation, so it's a law without meaning or effect. Look, Jake, there's going to be some posturing that occurs when a nation has been so thoroughly defeated in this way.
I sort of agree with Stephen Miller on that last point, where a lot of the media outlets pointed to Delcy Rodriguez coming out and saying, you need to send him back. We want proof of life. This is terrible. You can't do that. She has to respond that way.
Right.
She doesn't want her throat
for her own sake.
She doesn't want to be headed or be hung or be shot in the back of the head.
Right.
Yeah, for her preservation. Now that she's sworn in as El Presidente or La Presidenta, maybe, I don't know, she can do whatever she wants. And effectively, that's what she did. She gets sworn in and then says, we'll cooperate.
And when he says nobody on the ground supported the op, I think all of our assets were brought back with us. They were exfilled right along with everything else when we left that installation with Maduro.
Right.
Okay, now this next one is a little more confusing. I don't know what he's saying here. This is island confusing.
The United States of America, think about this, Jake. The United States of America has encircled this nation for months. One of the largest naval armadas in history has been stationed off its coast.
Yeah.
Fighter jets have been encircling the island. We've been engaging in kinetic lethal strikes against Maduro's drug boats and trained Aragua gang members leaving the island.
Yeah.
We have launched a complete oil embargo of the ghost fleet, the dark ships.
We've
and
been
now
covering
on
all
top
of it.
of that,
Yeah.
and now on top of all of that, right? Maduro is sitting in a jail cell in New York, as is his wife. So of course there's going to be, this is very important though, of course there's going to be some posturing.
Okay.
Without giving anything away, I want to be very clear. Very clear. The government has sent messages, this is such an important point, Jake, to the Secretary of State, to our senior U.S. government official negotiators. They have sent message after message making clear that they will meet the terms, demands, conditions, and requirements of the United States.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear about that.
The fact that he's referring to Venezuela as an island.
Yeah. That just irks me.
Yeah. Could give him the benefit of the doubt and saying it's an island of an adversary in our Western Hemisphere. But I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I thought it was worth, maybe he's got Cuba on the mind.
I mean, Cuba, Trump said it out loud, and I think that's actually the plan with Cuba, is just kind of let them fall into financial chaos more so than they are, and let the communist government be overthrown. I think it's a possibility, a strong possibility in Cuba. Things are getting real bad.
Yeah, I think it's almost an inevitability at this point.
I agree.
Okay, now this is, I've got this one titled Meaning of Power. This is a really good and clear insight into what motivates the decision-making in the Trump administration when it comes to geopolitics. And it's a different philosophy from previous administrations. It is, if you would consider previous administrations' geopolitical strategy a neoliberal strategy, this is anti-liberal.
So let's the question about who is now running Venezuela is one that even members of Congress who are big Trump supporters say they're not quite sure about. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told CNN's Manu Raju that he doesn't know what President Trump meant by his assertion that the U.S. is running Venezuela, and he said he needs more information. Can you tell us what the president means when he says, is acting President Delcy Rodriguez in charge? Is she running Venezuela or not?
Well, what the president said is true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else. But we live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world that have existed since the beginning of time.
But in terms of day-to-day operations in Venezuela, that is acting President Rodriguez, right? It's not some sort of American emissary.
What I'm saying is, we'll keep going here, Jake, so I want to say what I'm saying and then you'll follow up. But what I'm saying is just one level above that, which is that by definition, we are in charge. because we have the United States military stationed outside the country. We set the terms and conditions. We have a complete embargo on all of their oil and their ability to do commerce. So for them to do commerce, they need our permission. For them to be able to run an economy, they need our permission. So the United States is in charge. The United States is running the country during this transition period.
If that's
now,
true,
obviously that doesn't mean that President Trump is setting the bus fare schedule inside the country.
So
doesn't mean that President Trump is assigning the K-12 curriculum in the country.
We got him locked up and squared away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the bus rates example you provided.
Yes. So we're going to skip the next one. Jake Tapper brings up the fact that we're saying that this was a law enforcement action, but we didn't capture everyone that's been indicted in Venezuela. So how can you say it's a law enforcement action? And Stephen Miller just says, you know, it would be in the people's interest who have not been captured to cooperate with the U.S. So nothing much there. But CNN cuts off their video there. So their reproduction of this ends there on their channel. But Forbes published the whole interview. And this is what followed CNN cutting off the interview. So the first one is interim leader Miller. I think I have CNN at the end, and it is technically a CNN interview, but this is from the Forbes cut.
One last question. The president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela to become the next president or the interim leader. And I wonder where he got that from, given that her cutout, Gonzalez, won the election last year 2 years ago, overwhelmingly, 70% of the vote or something like that. Why does the president think that Machado should not be the next leader? Why does he think she's weak?
First of all Venezuela experts agree, that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge. And the military would follow her and the security forces would follow her. This is not a serious. It's not even a serious question.
So should there be an election?
If you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States, this is sort of foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology.
Do you understand why CNN cut this?
Yeah. Because he steamrolls Jake Tapper.
Yeah, and then rounds it out with, I'm sure you've seen the Trvth Nuke meme.
I believe so.
I titled this Trvth Nuke.
This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparation
about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea, and by the way, you do. I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping you'd be better at that this time.
I asked you about if there should.
That is an excellent adjective for Jake Tapper and pretty much all of CNN news anchors. Very smarmy.
It really is. They are smarmy. Jake Tapper's the best at being smarmy. And I want you to play this from the beginning because I want you to realize Jake Tapper knows exactly what Stephen Miller is talking about, but it's so repulsive to him to have it called out. It's analogous to sprinkling the holy water on a possessed person. Someone possessed by neoliberalism cannot face what happened in the post-World War II order.
Right.
This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparation
about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea. And by the way, you do. I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman running Venezuela right now is part of the Maduro regime.
There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away, to create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. We went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let.
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised. But the priority right now, as the president has made clear, is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
All right.
And let's just take a moment and just acknowledge, Jake, that what we've witnessed under President Trump's leadership this last week is one of the greatest foreign policy and military victories this country has ever had.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That is a lot.
Now, aside from the very end, where Tapper says, "Thank you, Stephen Miller, thank you for your time," isn't that the exact evolution of any disagreement with a good, smarmy neoliberal?
Yeah.
You start bringing things up. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. I asked you about this. And then when you can't respond, you say, okay, well, we got to cut away.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, bye. Thank you. Thank you.
And don't forget the no in there.
I would love to see the Jake Tapper after, they hang up and say goodbye, because, he does make probably a smarmy remark about it. Well, that was Stephen Miller refusing to answer my question on this. You can just hear it. I don't even need to see it. I know that that's exactly how it went.
I'd have to guess that instead of that, they had a panel on hand, and they all had a struggle session about Jake Tapper's impending PTSD from having to talk to such a fascist.
Right. I have to wipe my glasses. They're foggy.
Yes. Well, now we're going to go to a less entertaining guest. John Bolton was on the Telegraph.
Oh boy!
And we've got some clips from John Bolton. So the first one is the hosts of this Telegraph product asking John Bolton, "Well, why now?"
Ambassador Bolton, thank you very much for joining us. You were a national security advisor in Donald Trump's first term, but you have, of course, been something of a critic before and since, and even during. My first question is, how long was Maduro's arrest in the pipeline, do you think, and why did it happen now?
Well, I think in Trump's disorganized way of thinking, the option of doing something about Maduro and or the regime was probably there for a long time. Certainly the Pentagon, by every press report we've had, took months of planning before the operation was carried out on Saturday. So I think the option may have been there for a long while. Why it occurred on the 3rd of January, my theory is because it's the anniversary in 1990 when Manuel Noriega, the dictator of Panama, surrendered to U.S. forces there. It's also the 6th anniversary of the successful U.S. strike against Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Quds Force. So I think that may have been in Trump's mind, but I think he had also basically concluded that he wasn't getting what he wanted out of Maduro, and that something else had to be done. I think the main problem right now is that while Maduro may be about to appear in court in the United States, the rest of the regime is still there. And these are hardcore Chavistas, followers of the dictator Hugo Chavez, whom Maduro succeeded. They're not suppressed Democrats who are now looking for a chance to negotiate with the United States. Their main objective is going to be to keep the regime in place.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. The absolute just troll level of blowing up the mausoleum for Hugo Chavez.
Yes, yes.
No strategic value whatsoever. No military defensives. We just hit Hugo Chavez's grave. Suck on that, communists.
So Israel was involved.
That's right.
So the hosts over at the Telegraph are actually going to ask Bolton about all of this talk of a coup and an inside job.
And that's why some people are speculating that this was, in fact, an internally supported coup. Is that a reasonable speculation?
Well, I've seen the suggestion of that. Obviously, I don't have any evidence one way or the other on it, other than what's been out there publicly. I kind of doubt it. I think the regime will do a lot of things to preserve itself, and it may well conclude that throwing Maduro under the bus is worth it. But it's also important to keep in mind that the decision makers are not just people like Delcy Rodriguez or her brother, conveniently, Jorge Rodriguez, the president of the National Assembly, or Vladimir Pedrino, the minister of defense. The Russians, the Chinese, the Cubans, the Iranians all have major stakes in keeping that regime in power for a variety of reasons. And they may have concluded that Maduro had outlived his shelf life, and that sacrificing him to maintain the regime itself might be worthwhile. I don't know. It's very hard to tell. Certainly, the fact that military force had to be used to get Maduro out doesn't sound like it was entirely cooperative. And so I think there's still a lot to learn there. If it's true that Maduro was sold out, it shows really just how untrustworthy this regime is.
Very good.
All right.
This is very good.
Let's move on to discussion about the potential motives here.
Ambassador Bolton, Donald Trump has suggested this is about drugs, predominantly describing Venezuela as a narco state. Is it about drugs or is it about oil, and specifically China's reliance on Venezuelan oil?
Well, I think in Trump's mind, it's all mushed together. And there's the illegal drugs thing. There's the equation of drug trafficking with terrorism, which is completely inaccurate. There's concern about illegal immigration, with Trump saying that Venezuela has opened its mental institutions and prisons for people to come to the United States. Also not true. Then there's oil. Then there are the real reasons, which we were concerned about in 2018 and 2019, and which were perfectly legitimate in considering today. And that is Russia using Venezuela as a base of activities in this hemisphere, much safer for the Russians than Cuba, which is still not moved from 90 miles away from the United States. The Cubans have a vested interest in keeping Maduro in power because they fear correctly that if Maduro falls, the post-Castro regime in Cuba may fall. And I hope it does. And the Noriega dictatorship in Nicaragua, the part of the troika of tyranny, as I called it during the first Trump term. Chinese, as you mentioned, are very interested in Venezuela's oil. And let's not forget, by most estimates, Venezuela has the largest reserves of oil in the ground of any country in the world, including Saudi Arabia and the United States. Right now, although production is low, I think China buys about 80% of Venezuela's oil exports. It doesn't want to see that disappear. And Iran has the largest Iranian embassy in the world in Caracas, where it helps oversee Hezbollah activities in the Western Hemisphere. It helps launder sanctioned Iranian financial assets through Venezuela's financial system. And it's looking over Venezuela's uranium reserves in the ground, which are also among the largest in the world.
Yeah, do you like that? Troika of tyranny?
Yeah, it is a nice one between Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba. I think we knocked out two of them probably with this punch. I don't know about Nicaragua, but yeah, that is interesting. The Hezbollah drug activity is one of the pyramids of the financial scheme that I was kind of mentioning on my prong approach. That was really kind of the drug terrorism component, at least when you really dig into the details. It's easy to say it's a narco-terrorist state, but when you look into the actual details behind it, Hezbollah did fund a lot of their operations with Venezuelan drugs. So, and that's conversely
rather than daycares.
Rather than daycares, that's the African approach.
I see. Okay, now let's listen to Bolton degrade Trump a little bit more, talking about these sphere games.
There has been suggestion of a possible quid pro quo with Russia, that Russia is happy to see America assert its dominance in its region, on the understanding that Russia will then be allowed to do the same in Ukraine. Do you think that's possibly true?
Well, I think it's possible, but I think a lot of people give Trump too much credit for thinking in grand geostrategic terms about spheres of influence internationally. He's not playing 3D chess. He's playing one move at a time, as is demonstrated by the confusion that exists now based on what Trump said Saturday, that we're going to be running Venezuela. When the man that some have already described as the viceroy of Venezuela, Marco Rubio, took pains in our Sunday talk shows to say, no, I'm not going to be running Venezuela. We're going to be influencing the policy that they're going to pursue. I think Putin and Xi Jinping will use this very disorderly process that Trump has initiated as a precedent for them taking action in Ukraine or Taiwan. I think it would be wrong. I don't think it's justified in any sense of the word the way we are justified in Venezuela. You can't just use words as if they have no meaning and apply them to radically different situations.
He's not talking about spheres of influence, despite the State Department that same very day of this thing tweeting out, "This is our hemisphere."
Yeah.
So
Bolton is just he's a he's sour, bitter old man.
Well, he realizes that his 30-year reign of the hawks in the same policy, I forget what we called them, pretty much. I don't even know if we had a name for them, but that power structure that started with the Clintons and went all the way through Obama is kind of over that period of time. And so what's funny about this whole Venezuela thing is you see the people that were under the Bush, the Clintons, and the John Bolton types are kind of jacked up about Venezuela a little bit. So it's kind of that old bag trick, but they're pissed off because Trump is no longer completely bought out by that sort of vision of big oil and whatnot. At least the perspective being, and that's why people like John Bolton are brushing dust all over him.
Yeah. And it's an easy win for Bolton. Look at me. Look how smart I am. Look at how stupid Trump is.
Exactly.
So I've got a clip in this segment, in this series, that will transition us to Greenland. Do you have any more Venezuela clips or topics you want to cover?
The only thing was I had Who is Delcy Rodriguez kind of segment.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Yeah. So I thought play that. It's just a quick minute and a half.
Who is Venezuela's new leader now that Nicolas Maduro is ousted? Delcy Rodriguez was sworn in as acting president on Monday. Rodriguez is a socialist true believer who helped Maduro hold on to power for more than a decade as the country's economy crumbled. After initially demanding Maduro's release, she struck a different tone toward the U.S. on Sunday. The 56-year-old lawyer by training has been described as a ruthlessly ambitious and Machiavellian political operative by former colleagues and U.S. officials. For the last decade, she held a number of key positions as she climbed rising to the top of Maduro's authoritarian regime. She and her brother, who presides over Venezuela's Congress, are considered among Maduro's most loyal advisors. Okay. Rodriguez ran the foreign ministry and later took charge of the economy and its most important industry, oil. Now, President Trump is counting on her to work with the U.S. as, in Trump's words, it begins to run Venezuela. In doing so, he's leaving Maduro's regime intact and choosing one of the leftist leader's confidants over Maria Corina Machado, the opposition leader and right-wing supporter of Trump who won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, now that Stephen Miller framed it in a way that was really good. It's like we can't just put her in there, the Machado lady. Like you can't just fly her in there and expect everyone to just be like, okay, now we're capitalists. Take it away, capitalist lady.
Yeah,
but
I hate that music bed.
Yeah, me too. I also hate how that reporter whispered the entire time.
Yeah, that music bed. Just because I'm a child of the 90s, just makes me think we're getting the introduction to some jaded girl boss who finds the meaning of Christmas over the course of our movie.
That's right. That was her scowling at all the people going into the thrifty wreath shops. And
yeah.
I don't need Christmas. I can see that perfectly. Good picture.
Okay, well, let's move on to Greenland, because that's our next target.
Yep.
And let's hear John Bolton talk about Vance and Greenland.
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene is annoyed, but that's a given. Tucker Carlson will be annoyed. I look forward to his next podcast about this. But what everyone's wondering is, where does J.D. Vance fit into all of this? Some people sense that Marco Rubio really took the lead on this, and Vance, who's a little more isolationist, has perhaps been squeezed out.
Well, I think Vance is decidedly isolationist, and I think it's dangerous because he's much smarter than Trump, and he does think in more coherent strategic terms, to the great detriment of the United States. I would say if his views prevail. I thought it was quite interesting on Saturday that Trump had Rubio, Pete Hegseth, General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, John Ratcliffe, the head of the CIA. No J.D. Vance, who purely by coincidence had an engagement in Cincinnati, Ohio, and couldn't be there. I don't think that was by accident, and I think this is the splits, the tensions that this intervention could cause. I think will manifest themselves politically. I don't think the Democrats have handled this very well. You know, they've been talking about international law and this and that and the other thing. We just took a bad guy down. That's what most Americans think. And the question is that really what they want the president doing? Or do they want him concentrating on the economy, which many Americans feel is in difficult shape? If I could just say one word on Greenland, because I didn't respond to your earlier question. Look, I think Trump is trolling the world on Greenland. Remember how he negotiates. He makes the most incredible, outrageous demand he can think of. People pull their hair out in despair. How are we ever going to respond to that? He gets 50%, 30% of what he asked for, and it's a big success. Honestly, if the United States under Trump invaded Greenland, it would be the end of the NATO alliance. It would be a catastrophe for the Western world.
And yet, many news segments did many minutes on, oh my God, are we really going to do Greenland next? And wrote serious articles about the implications of invading Greenland, a fellow NATO member.
Yeah. This is more from the Stephen Miller interview on CNN. It's just about Greenland. And it was cut out, and I think they used that as their excuse to cut out the rest of the interview because the post was specifically about Venezuela. But this is Jake Tapper asking Stephen Miller about his wife's social media posts about Greenland.
On another important topic, the premier of Greenland and the premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife, Katie Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. The Danish prime minister responded to this In an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says that he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War. Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now, so I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United
Right, but
States,
your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation.
No, but
that's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'm not, and I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset, Jake, by making clear that it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off.
You can't take military force off the table. I think Bolton's
and then
right.
The next clip is military force. I just broke these up for our sake.
As a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm just trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland. So
one last question,
doesn't
Stephen.
make any sense.
And I think he's right. And Bolton's also right, to your point.
MSNBC, Trump official refuses to rule out military takeover of Greenland. Perfect. That's awesome. He just said the title out loud in the interview.
Yeah.
Much points for him.
But we have to run it. It doesn't matter if he said it.
Yeah.
Yes. I think Bolton and Miller are right. No one is going to fight us over Greenland. If we wanted it, we could have it. But what Trump is doing here is posturing. He always postures.
Yeah, let's make a deal.
And yes, look, we don't want to capture your mayor with a nighttime Black Hawk raid.
But we have the ability to.
Look at us. Look, don't we look more similar than Maduro and I look? We can be civil about this. Let's make a deal. Sell Denmark. You don't want to come defend Greenland. You can't. You can't. And NATO's not going to help you either. So do the sensible thing. Take a massive check and make your country great.
And you know what I think too? The Venezuela raid, it gives Trump that upper hand in negotiations because now we
don't want to do that to you.
He absolutely has the Nixon madman effect. Oh, he'll do whatever he wants.
Yeah. I mean, people, I am really surprised, and I was looking for it all week. I'm really surprised I didn't see this headline or statement anywhere. He's not going to stop at Venezuela.
Oh, man. That's great. I'm putting a time marker down and also potential title. He's not going to stop at Venezuela. Love it.
But you're right. That is the effect that he's having.
So, I mean, it seems like
it's a 20-point aura boost. Like it's crazy. It's just you know that he can do this to you, and it changes the dynamic.
Exactly. With my pillar approach to Venezuela, is there anything that I said in that you disagreed with? It wasn't really.
No, I don't think so. The only thing really that I wish I had mentioned and that I was wondering if you were going to mention it, if you were going to go this far off the rails, which you weren't off the rails. I agreed with what you said. Have you seen the Q posters claiming that this is all about Smartmatic and Dominion because they were made by Venezuelan engineers?
Yeah, I have. I've seen the whole that's the real reason for it, so he can claim victory in 2020.
They finally released the Kraken.
Thousands of sealed indictments. I don't know. I mean, obviously that's nuts, but it's like you have to tune out the noise, and there's so much noise that's going on right now. The guy who I brought the petrodollar clip, he's like, we got to tune out the noise, and they're all just gonna tell you about how great it is that he was exfiltrated, and it's like that's what people seek. If we were trying to stroke the algo and get as many clicks and views, we would be like Bush 2.0 or Bush Light,
Bush Light, yeah, memes. That's a good one.
And just get max clicks for it, and that's what people crave. They want the simple explanation. But it is so messy right now, and there's so much up in the air still, that anyone telling you that this is a catastrophically terrible move or this is the best thing that he could have done is just talking out of their ass entirely, because there's so much that still needs to happen for this to be a success. But for the time being, the optics are massive success militarily.
And you're right. If we assume that Rodriguez is a good little doobie and is under our thumb, I think it's an incredible success. And we even said that if we could use this domino approach in the last episode, we said if we can use this domino approach to put pressure on Iran, maybe even topple Khomeini, and we didn't even talk about Maduro, it would be a masterstroke. This could very well be the very first movements in that masterstroke. But so many things have to go right. So many things have to be kept on track, secret, and in line.
Right.
That we just don't know yet. And that's, like you said, it's not popular to say we don't know. It's also not popular to say, yeah, it probably was a great thing. It was also unconstitutional, and I don't like it. Even though I like it, I don't like it. That's too nuanced.
Well, that's also what I told my coworker, is I'm saying with the legal gray area, as far as not informing Congress, I think, enough legal gray area exists for him to probably be able to do it. But then I also stipulated, and I'm not saying I'm happy about the legal gray area. I'm just saying I'm just telling you the truth, telling you how it exists, how it is. But yeah, if you look at a map.
Let me ask you to look again at a map.
And you think about Iran getting toppled, and we did this last week too, that entire path now, the U.S., if Iran becomes friendly, Saudi Arabia is sort of half in, half out with us. They've become sort of like Turkey, where they're streamlined. And Erdogan's remarks, which I don't have clips on, about the whole thing, he very balanced, refused to be critical at first, made a very weak statement criticizing Venezuela's sovereignty and how it was sad. Didn't ever name Trump by name or Maduro by name, just said it was a sad event. Very much line straddling. But if Iran goes down, we've got this entire path through Europe, through Turkey, to the Stans, almost to India here. India, of course, is no fan of China. I think they've been having some actual spats back and forth, India and China, recently. We've got Africa, the northern part of Africa covered. Right, we're looking down on this region, the Sahel region, which is taken over by Wagner mainly, and then we've also got the southern region of China and Russia underneath them. So Iran is a huge key component. It is the great devil of the Middle East. I think that is where I'm skeptical that Israel is probably a little bit involved in this operation, if not majorly involved, because of the secondary effects that it's going to have on Iran. And the protests in Iran right now are frankly startling. Like, police forces in cities, I can't confirm this, I saw tweets about it, but evidently police forces in cities are joining the protesters.
Yes, and this appears to be shaping up before our eyes. Now, things can change in half of a millisecond.
I was thinking, like, I really hope that the regime doesn't get toppled before Tuesday. After Venezuela, I go, things are happening fast. I was like, when it comes to regime change in Iran, we should be thinking about minutes and hours and not weeks and months.
Yeah.
Because we are at a very big striking point, and I think Israel has got something boiling for Iran. If they don't, it's the greatest strategic blunder of Israel's life.
Yes, but I think any kind of overt military action would galvanize the population against an external foe and distract them from what they're doing, what they've been mobilized for. And I'm without a doubt that these protests may have started organically, but at least the narrative we're being fed in the West points to an astroturfing momentum, at least.
Well, it's happening in all the major cities across Iran, even Tabriz. I think I'm safe to say Tabriz. There are protests going on. That's kind of in the north, away from Tehran, closer to Turkey, where the boots on the ground informant that we have for the show lives. So they are going on there, and they keep popping up all over the country. Started in the bazaar. I see you've got some Iran clips if you'd like to play them.
Yes, I'm sending you a video on the electronic mail server.
Sure.
And we'll play it last. It's a map. So I've got my clips in the folder, but feel free to play the video itself so that people can see the map, because it's all of the protests mapped by the BBC. And I think it's a very interesting map. But let's start with a little bit of the neuro-linguistic programming. And, last week we said we were wondering why the regime hadn't cracked down, because they're prone to do that. You get a protest, they crack down.
Right.
It's usually violent. And we were kind of humming and hawing about, well, what does this mean that they haven't yet, that they're reaching out to the shop owners to try to mend fences, basically. Play my intro in the Iran. But well, before you do, I said last week what I would be doing if I was Iran, and the strategic thing to do would be to let this play out, surveil it, and let any agitators become more bold and give them an opportunity to slip up, and then you crack down on them. And I don't think the supreme leader and his regime are any kind of dummies. So now let's hear the intro from the Iran reporting this week.
The violent crackdown has begun.
Yeah. So there's been some people killed in Iran. 35, I believe, is the number that's come out of the country from various different sources. Yes, you did mention that. There's a couple of other things. I don't want to hit it yet in case you touch it in these clips.
Okay. Well, then let's get through some of them. This is from Channel 4. This is Protesters Killed.
The violent crackdown has begun. Over the weekend in western Iran, protesters tried to storm a police station in the town of Malekshai. 4 of them were killed, and according to state-affiliated media, 1 member of the security forces. 30 people were injured. Then on Sunday, Revolutionary Guards and police stormed a hospital nearby, which had demonstrators inside. According to human rights groups, at least 29 people have been killed since the protests began 10 days ago. And over 1,000 demonstrators have been arrested. The Grand Bazaar, Tehran, again one of the flashpoints today. News that the Iranian rial had reached a record low against the US dollar brought shop owners back out onto the streets. And in response, tear gas. Remember, this all started with electronics vendors shutting up shop in protest, a combination of the 12-day war with Israel last year, US sanctions and economic mismanagement has sent the value of the currency here into freefall. On a condition of anonymity, we've been speaking to small business owners and others in Tehran.
My company shrank and eventually I had to shut it down. My income dropped, my debts increased. Everything is so much more expensive. The anger of protesters today is justified because people cannot even afford to buy bread. I believe the protests will continue because in reality, this is a revolution of the hungry.
This woman is a mother of two. She hasn't taken to the streets of Tehran yet.
When life and death no longer make a difference to us, why should we be afraid? We have seen nothing from this regime except hunger, inflation, and misery.
Alrighty. Now we're going to get into some of this NLP material here. You can see this in many, many reports across Western media. And I brought two examples. The first is from Channel 4. It's a continuation of what we just heard. This time is different.
At first, the regime said it would listen to voices like these, threw money at the problem, a small temporary living allowance introduced yesterday. But at the same time made it clear their patience was running out with the protests. And this is what that looked like in the city of Shahrokord today. This may have started as a retail revolt, but now it's about much more. That said, the numbers on the streets are not at the same level as they were during the giant demonstrations in Iran 4 years ago. Also, Iranian opposition is still in exile, in prison, or ineffective. The reasons these protests may be different, though, Iran's sphere of influence is degraded, and Trump has said that the US was, quote, locked and loaded if protesters were killed.
President Trump has been threatening to intervene in the protest in the manner that happened in June. And I think that makes this very different. So both the economic pressure on the government, the way it's looking at how it can react, but also in the way that the population sees the effectiveness or the utility of these protests is different before, because Iran was not in the circumstance that it is after the 12-day war.
Violence erupted on the streets of Malakshari today. It came off the back of the funerals of some of those killed there at the weekend. But during the ceremony itself, the sound of mourning was replaced by this. Although towns like this have been economically neglected for
Death
years,
to
it's still
Khomeini.
not the type of place you'd expect to hear so many chanting that. Something is shifting.
Something is shifting.
Death to Khomeini. I think the $7 payments, like life payments, when Khomeini came out and said, we must listen to the protesters, but we got to get rid of the rioters, is I think the quote is what he said, something like that. Then the government comes out and says, we're going to pay you $7 effectively per month, which is like 1 million Iranian rial. That is a scared move, in my estimation. That is things are real bad. We've lost complete faith of the people who already don't like the regime. You'll hear a lot this week, or see a lot this week, about how Iranians are really Persian and not so much into extremist Islam like the regime is. And so the way that my sister-in-law's father frames it is they've learned to live around the regime. They adjust their lives accordingly to the regime and live within the rules. But when now those rules are impacting their daily life like this. It's a complete change of everything.
Yeah, and I agree. And I don't this is another one of those things where would it be a bad thing if Khomeini was deposed? No. Would it also be a bad thing if the U.S. basically did what we did to Maduro, to Khomeini? No. Would it be extra constitutional, extra congressional, and an abuse of power? Yeah.
Well, I don't think we would do what we did to Maduro, because I don't think we have the same regional closeness, military buildup, or capabilities with Iran as we did with Venezuela. Tehran is way more inland than Caracas.
Here is a question for you.
Sure.
What would happen in Iran if Khomeini were to die? And would the circumstances matter?
If Khomeini died, I have very little insight to the IRGC.
But just your gut feeling about the people's response, would it further motivate these protests into regime change, or would it suppress them?
So I think things like the $7 payments were like a suppressing tactic to try to appease people to get enforced protests. That's clear as day on paper. If Khomeini died, let's say he was killed in a strike by Israel, it would probably suppress them for the time being, but probably another person within the IRGC would rise up and take the leadership role, become the new Ayatollah.
So but you almost, I mean, with anything, you're going to have to take a strategic gamble. And the gamble in that situation, if Khomeini were to foolishly get on a helicopter for any reason, and that helicopter went down, you would have a new person step in, and they would most likely have to very aggressively suppress any remaining protests. And you would hope, if you are the ones that took that helicopter down, you would hope that repression, that increased violence, would push the people to a breaking point.
Right. I think you almost have to go by way of Bashar al-Assad, is have some sort of militant group come in and fight the IRGC, and make.
But see, that's the problem in Iran, is there isn't one.
They're pretty close to Iraq. There could be one spun up pretty quickly. It's not like we don't have a history of creating terrorist groups for our own needs.
What if ISIS overthrew Khomeini?
It would have to be, again, somebody like al-Ashara, al-Julani. It'd have to be an asset that we have that has a military group that we say, go and free your people, knowing that they're a puppet. ISIS would be worse than the IRGC. But I think ISIS would probably be preferred by Israel because they know that they would create a complete bollocks in Iran. But I don't think the Persian people really would be for it.
No, and see, that's the most complex issue, is you don't have a majority in sentiment or ethnicity Arab population.
No.
So ISIS is probably best equipped to carry out this operation. But what do you do once the black flag is over Tehran? What do you do then?
Well, then I think you could be justified in the directed and targeted strikes in Tehran. So I don't really see ISIS taking over. But I feel like if ISIS were to come in and fight the IRGC, You just sit around, wait for the victor, and then pick them off. But I think ISIS is risky.
Yeah, I do too, but I don't see there are no militant groups with the capacity to carry something out like that. I mean, Iran is a legitimate nation state power. It's not Bashar al-Assad in Syria.
I know what you're saying. There's no ethnic tensions. There's no multiple groups that are fighting each other. There's no civil war in Iran. It's tough.
Yeah, it is. It is a tough one. But, you know, I would have never imagined blowing up pagers. So I wonder if we'll see something like that. Apparently Israel has people in Iran. If you recall, the general who was killed by the suicide drone with an Israeli operative on the hillside next to the home.
Israel's going to Venezuela Iran. Just a thought.
I'm most interested in how. How do you do it? How do you do it in a way that transitions the government from an Islamic theocracy to a Persian? It probably wouldn't be a democracy, but you know, just a moderate Persian state. It almost has to be a Iranian people storming the capital, physically pulling Khomeini and his cadre out of the building, which I also don't see happening.
What a day to suggest the Iranians storm the capital.
Yeah. What is the anniversary of the overthrow of the Shah?
Oh, you're talking about the symbolic overthrow of the Shah. Last week we talked about Operation Ajax, which was the installation of the Shah.
February 11th, 1979, coming up.
Oh man, that's almost kismet, to use a term from our overlords. Yeah, that is coming up. January 7th through February 11th is the date range for the Iranian Revolution.
Wow.
Tomorrow? That would be wild, man. All right, Polymarket's odds. Khomeini out.
Let's make some money here.
So we still don't have geopolitical
I just
betting.
rubbed my hands together when I did that.
The odds for Khomeini out by June 30th, which, I mean, there's absolutely no art in that date selection. That's just midway through the year. That's the only reason they picked it. The odds jumped today from 27 to 35%, 36%. January 31st odds.
Well, you know, and also someone made $400,000 on the Maduro out by a certain date, and that bet was placed the day before the operation. So those odd jumps are nothing to just shake a stick at.
Well, out by December 31st, 2026, jumped to 50%, then back down, and now it's hovering at 49%. And that's up from a month ago in December, 33%. So people that are putting money on it like the odds here.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to CBS. Let's hear CBS's report on protests.
Well, as protests rage across Iran, we're learning of the deaths of at least 25 during the first 9 days of unrest. You're seeing some of the video that's likely flooding your social media feeds today about this. These protesters on the ground here say they're frustrated. There's soaring inflation there. There's a lot of economic uncertainty in Iran. So let's go live now to CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tayeb reporting from London. So, my friend, President Trump threatened Iran that if protesters were hurt or killed, there would be consequences. That really amplifies our focus on this. What more can you tell us?
Reed, good to be with you. And, well, this is really where context matters. Iran is arguably at its most vulnerable point in decades. The economy is buckling. Public trust is thin. And last year, the regime came out incredibly bruised from that 12-day direct confrontation with Israel when we were last on the ground inside the country. And it's really exposing the limits to Iran's deterrence and confidence, frankly. Now, Donald Trump is leaning into that, publicly backing protesters on the ground inside Iran and reviving his so-called MIGA, Make Iran Great Again framing, casting this as a potentially a regime-changing moment. Now, Tehran's response has, of course, been furious and defensive. Officials have been warning President Trump is crossing a red line, accusing Washington of trying to stoke unrest, and they're threatening retaliation. But the tone also signals real anxiety. We're also seeing something else come to the surface, and that's the name Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's last Shah. Now, there have been reports and images of protesters and chants calling for his return. Now, the reality, though, is he's not widely viewed as a credible or organized political force inside Iran. He doesn't have a real on-the-ground movement there, and many Iranians reject a so-called restoration narrative. But the fact his name is appearing at all is revealing. It shows that protesters are reaching for any symbol that represents a clean break from the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, I think last week you pointed out that it was interesting, the whole Islamic revolution, or the Iranian revolution, was brought about by the college students in the universities. They were really the big force for removing the Shah, and now it's kind of the same group, even though they're still not pointing to it. If you look at the videos, and you see the videos, it is young people. We're talking teens, 20s, and 30s that are out there on the street. I mean, that's
not shopkeepers.
Not shopkeepers. And that is your riot demographic, right? If your riot doesn't have 16, 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds in it, then it's pretty much people queuing up for a Fish concert.
Yeah, then it's a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. It's something to do. It's
right.
Oy vey, my 401k. So
yes.
So I think there's a lot of things are lining up. I'm really hoping it's got the momentum to get there.
Okay, do you have that video? Well, actually, I have one more clip here, and this is going to be where you need to remember the talking point of this time. It's different. This is the same fellow from CBS talking about the government's tactics.
Read. And are we getting any sense that the United States is perhaps getting on board, at least in, as you put it, a symbolic way with the return of that name into the narrative?
Yeah, it's, look, we have to, again, look at what's all starting this. You know, this started as raw economic rage. Inflation across Iran is brutal. The local currency is
again, hold on a second.
Prices on nearly...
In both of these clips, we're told, remember what started this, economic. And you remember last week, I made a big deal, at least for a few seconds, about how it was unclear how this started, but the narrative was shifting toward this being an economic trouble. And now you have people in the mainstream media telling you, remember how this started, or remember what we ended up telling you about this.
Right.
You know, this started as raw.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say you can continue.
Okay.
You know, this started as raw economic rage. Inflation across Iran is brutal. The local currency is in free fall. Prices on nearly everything is spiking. And it's not just in Tehran, it's in major cities. And this demonstration, which has gone national across most provinces and is cutting across class lines. And so the Islamic Republic is really looking at all of this, trying to use a playbook that is familiar to them. You know, if you've been watching Iran as long as I have, first they try to smother unrest with force, then they try to throttle the internet or sweep people up in arrests and blame, quote, foreign hands. And then they try to offer just enough relief to divide demonstrators. You know, we saw versions of this after the 2009 Green Movement, the 2019 fuel protests, and the 2022 Masa Amini demonstrations. Crackdowns first, then tactical concessions, but never any real accountability. But this time, it does feel different. And with the threat of President Trump in the background about potentially feeling emboldened about carrying out more strikes in Iran, strikes that could potentially decapitate the leadership inside that country, there's certainly a lot of alarm there. But Iran is very different from Venezuela, it has to be said.
So good to be able to talk to somebody who's been watching this for so long to put it in such great context. MTS Tayyab, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You should get on the offensive. You really want to know what's going on.
That's right. So I have this this clip that I sent you. I want you to play it on the stream so people can see this map when it's presented, of the map of the protests, and then we can stop this part of the way through. I cut it into 2 clips, so it's going to be worth stopping some part through. So just pause it when you want to, and when you want to discuss this map when it is shown.
Perfect.
Iranians have taken to the streets in the largest protest the country has seen since 2022. Days of large-scale demonstrations have rocked the country in many major cities. Protesters stood in front of police water cannons, refusing to move. Others shouted "Death to the dictator" and set fire to statues. BBC Verify and BBC Persian have analysed more than 100 videos of anti-government demonstrations in more than 50 towns and cities across the country. Those 50 places represent a bare minimum. We've only mapped protests with verified video. That's footage we've identified the location for and checked it's new. There will have been more protests, potentially many more, where we haven't been able to verify video or seen any at all. Anger initially broke out in the capital Tehran on the 28th of December, after the value of the country's currency sharply dropped.
All right, so I get the map mapped out, if you will, on the screen here, displaying the locations of the protests. So I believe that's what the red dots. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Now I'm noticing the concentration of them are on the western coast of Iran, bordering Iraq and down into that Saudi Peninsula area.
Basically following the Zagros mountain range.
Okay.
I think that is important to note, because if you're thinking about a strategic defensive position, it doesn't get much better than a mountain range.
As far as the protesters take up a spot to defend against the IRGC?
Yes, to secede basically from Iran at large. And there's not a well enough organized movement to do that. But if you were to support a secessionist movement in Iran, the Zagros Mountains would cut Tehran off from its port cities, aside from those on the Caspian Sea,
right,
and provide a natural defense from which to host those operations.
A good thought. Good observation too, I think. Yeah.
And it could be sheer coincidence that these dots follow the mountain range, but I don't tend to fall back on coincidence when there's so many things at play.
Right. So in essence, would you think that maybe they're being spun up in those specific locations for the strategical tactical
Yes,
advantage?
that's what I'm implying.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is interesting. I like it. I can see Tabriz is on the map here. It's that most northern dot.
Yes.
Yeah. That's Tabriz. That's a pretty major city in Iran.
You know who we haven't talked about and who is very close to Tabriz? Now, I don't know how prominent they are in Iran itself, but that is what would be Kurdistan.
That's a good thought, too. If the Kurds spill over in that southern Turkey, I don't know how far west they go, but I think that whole area between, the Mediterranean Sea and the Caspian Sea, kind of in Syria up through there is a strim. I wonder if there's a map online that shows kind of the general Kurdistan.
I'm sure there is.
Just for the sake of visualization. Let's see here. Yeah, it does flow into. It's not quite Tabriz. It's more closely towards that western border of Iraq, or the western border of Iran on Iraq's border. But hell, if protests are going on there, kind of an overlap.
Yeah.
This is why it's important to look at maps, friends.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Well, it seems like the protests are just south of where Kurdistan is. Like where the first concentration along that mountain range starts is where Kurdistan effectively ends.
Now, what would you think if... So you know how the Kurds got wrapped into the Syrian Defense Forces? Yep. What if, as a way to and this is a long shot, but it crossed my mind, so I'm going to say it. What if we're engineering a Kurdish nation at the conjunction of Iraq and Turkey to continue to ease the burden of Kurds in Turkey and to sort of transition them out of Syria and into their own homeland?
It'd be interesting.
You've wrapped them into a military force that is supported and probably trained by U.S. operatives.
They're stationed in the north of Syria, protecting our oil interests, and we send them through Iraq over to Iran to topple the regime.
I think it's a possibility. At least create more chaos.
I'm not huge on the timeline issue because I think the regime's got to be toppled like before February.
Yeah, February 11th.
Right. So, I don't know. It's a good thought. I like it.
Maybe the Kurdish forces move in after the protest creates enough chaos. I don't know. This is all just throwing around ideas, and this is how you should think about these things. I mean, anything is a possibility when it comes to risk. I mean, geopolitics.
Yeah, really. You know what? That is one thing that really struck me this week is how often we've referred to the game Risk, and how just the past couple of months have just proven out that it really is a big game of Risk. Specifically with the Secure the Western Hemisphere strategy, and now when we're talking about a very strategically located piece of land like Iran, which is quite literally the smack dab middle of the earth,
Yeah.
It's just nuts. Because Turkey is technically that land bridge from east to west, and Iran is just, right there. It's an extension of it.
Yeah, so I think we should keep our timeline in mind. Our February 11th, January 7th, tomorrow to February 11th. And I don't think it is... I think the percentages that we see on Polymarket are probably pretty close.
Iran regime out by February 11th? You wanna make the? I'll go in with you on that prediction.
Sure.
2026, just so we can't cheat and say, well, it happened in 2027. Nam and D Haugen. So, do you feel like your prediction from last week of the protests being killed off this week? You think that's null and void?
No, I didn't say they'd be killed off. I said there would be a crackdown. You give the protest time to foment, time to make some mistakes, to commit some OPSEC mistakes, so you can find out if and who the agitators are, and then you crack down and you arrest those you suspect of being agitators. I mean, we heard in a report earlier there have been more than 1,000 arrests.
Fair enough. I did write first week of 2026 crackdown on Iranian protesters predicted by JGD. I wrote those exact words, and that's what you said. So, very well, you predicted it. There has been a crackdown, and then an appeasement payment.
Yeah. And I have to give some credence to you for saying that you thought that the regime was acting out of fear. I kind of wrote that off, and that was what spurred my thought of this is more strategic than out of fear. But the payments that is an appeasement move.
It's a scared move. It's like,
yeah,
oh,
it is.
shit. I texted that to my sister-in-law. I go, that is not typical of Iran. Although the CBS guy said it is typical. I have not heard of this previously, these kind of payments before. It's more of just been suppression, so we'll see.
Do you know what kind of payments I really like to hear about?
What's that?
Donations to the Millennial Media Offensive.
Oh, good transition.
Millennial Media Offensive.
You are riding along on the offensive every Tuesday night at 5:30 p.m. That is every martes. Son las 5:30. We are here on the stream doing a show where we look at the world events, which seemingly every week has just been, it's been 2026 and the end of 2025 have been very much packed full of geopolitical tensions and happenings around the world. Decades happening in weeks. It's insane. But every Tuesday night we do it, and we do it for free. Effectively, we don't have advertisers. We don't try to bombard you, get you to buy stuff. Instead, we rely on the value from our producers. There's many ways of returning value. It can be art, it can be clips, it can be emails. All of it is much appreciated. Even fiat donations, Bitcoin donations. We do have a slight hiccup currently with our feed. So a lot of people have pointed out we're not live anywhere, and that is an issue that I've identified. Podcasting, the podcast index, for whatever reason, has reverted to our WordPress feed, our 1.0 feed. So I've put an email to the podcast index guys in to get our feed corrected. And coming in 2026, all episodes should have chapters and transcripts when you listen to it, if you don't listen to it live. So a couple of new additions I worked on as a New Year treat, and somehow that has rattled the world so much that our RSS feed is off. But nonetheless, you can go to mmo.show/donate and find how you can give value back to the show. Also, you can join us in the chat room. That's chat.mmo.show every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. And join a community of people that also realize that most of what they're told by the official sources is horse crap, and people that seek the truth with us. So, thank you very much. If the person I described is you, but we always like to start off by thanking the person that supplied the art from last week, and that was none other than Wolf once again, and he helped us ring in episode 200 of the Millennium Media Offensive with a nice birthday cake. And it's just, it's pretty simple. The fonts are nice, and it's a cake with 200 and candles lit on top of it. It's a good-looking cake. I would eat that cake. It looks like an ice cream cake with caramel on top.
Yeah, it kind of does.
I like ice cream cake, but I'm also lactose intolerant, so therein lies the rub. So thank you very much, Wolf. We don't have a piece of art for tonight.
Another example of things being good and bad.
That's right. That's right. You can have your cake and blow it out your ass later. So thank you, Wolf. If you have an art idea, you don't have to be Wolf. You could be anybody, but you can feel free to send that to dan@mmo.show and john@mmo.show. Operators are standing by to judge your art and judge it critically, as we always do. Moving on, we've got a couple of people with fiat donations that we need to thank. And right away, I realized I've selected the wrong date here. But nonetheless, my easy peasy notebook will fix that for me. And here we go. Starting off the top of the list is Cousin Vito, who came in with an executive producer credit through PayPal, and he sends us $200 and says, "Gentlemen, this was meant to be a $200 or 200 episode show donation, but the PayPal back end blocked it. Please consider this a year-end bonus for 2025 fantastic performance this year, and Q1 2026 is looking great." It's Italian. Kai Vidamo. Ciao Vidamo, Cousin Vito. Do you know what that means in Italian? I don't. So that's what I'm asking.
Vidamo.
Good life, maybe?
Oh,
see ya. Ciao, vi vediamo. Thank you, sir. I think Cousin Vito is of the Italian persuasion, so much appreciated, sir. Up next, Eli the Coffee Guy, who just delivered 5 pounds of espresso beans to my front door today, came in through PayPal with $26.26 and says, "Gentlemen, nothing like drop squatting the leader of a foreign nation to kick off the new year. I read that headline and have been looking forward to this week's show ever since. I want to also suggest someone check out the Tucker interview with Ian Carroll about the Las Vegas shooting. Lots of interesting tidbits about Mr. Bonesaw and the Khashoggi murder. As long as we don't invade Colombia, the coffee should keep flowing. So visit gigawattcoffeeroasters.com and use code OTO20 for 20% off your order. Stay caffeinated and stay on the offensive. Eli the Coffee Guy."
And it's a big butt.
On the offensive.
I don't know about the size of his butt. It was a misfire, but I'm sure it is a lovely butt that he's got. I'm sure it's Jen and Eli over at Gigawatt Coffee, and I'm sure Jen just loves his butt. So thank you very much, Eli the Coffee Guy, for that. Up next, Sharky Shark comes in through PayPal with his monthly reoccurring of $20.01, Day One Fish. Emily the Fed, who's one of the people that reached out to me this week about my read on this event in Venezuela, she came in through PayPal with $11, and that's her reoccurring donation. Chucky Chuckles, a name that we've heard before, comes in through many times before. It comes in through PayPal with $10.42. It says, "What a great time to produce and listen to a media-critical podcast with a geopolitical bent. Keep OTO
on the offensive."
Chucky Chuckles. I agree, sir. What a time to be alive, indeed. Ethan C. comes in through PayPal with $10, and that's his monthly recurring donation. Thank you, sir. The Nail Lord of Gaylord comes in through Venmo with $10 and says, "Mlog here, OTO. I guess you're going to take a president in the middle of the night, then take them from a country with an estimated 300 billion barrels of oil in the ground. Break it down, boys. I hope you're not disappointed, Nail Lord of Gaylord. Thank you very much." Finally, Praetor Pareka of the Peoria Diocese, a.k.a. Hempress Emily M., comes in through PayPal with $8.58 and said, "Blessed Epiphany and Happy New Year, my millennials."
My millennials, stay woke. On the offensive.
That does it for our fiat donators. Solid start to 2026. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all very much. We also have some boosts from people sending Bitcoin through the modern podcast apps, such as CurioCaster, which is what Eric PP used to send 3,333 Satoshis for number 200 Protein Orphan. Thank you very much, Eric PP. Bully Steed comes in with 2,026 Satoshis and says, "Maps, hashtag MMO, Oh, we predicted that at hashtag OTO. And then we have Nostra Gang, who came in with 200 Satoshis with a bunch of emojis referencing the new year. Thank you very much. Hope everyone had a good new year. And then we had a streamer this week stream 2,550 Satoshis for number 200 Protein Orphan. That was username used to read a lot fountain.fm. So thank you very much. That's a new username. Don't know if it's a new person, but we appreciate you regardless.
I could
and we appreciate
interject here. We did have a couple of boosts that I think failed to hit because of the feed issue that we're having. I think I saw NetNed had sent something like 20,000 Satoshis in, which got bounced probably right back to him because of our feed issue. So thank you, NetNed. We did see that. We appreciate that. While you're reading the boost, we got it.
You want to give him a Baghdaddy for that one?
We give him a Baghdaddy for that. I also feel like we should do the
Baghdaddy.
Cha-ching.
Baghdaddy.
Can you feel the energy? Come on, come on.
We predicted that.
Oh, we predicted that. We predicted that. Oh, we predicted that. We predicted that. Oh,
No, I just feel like we've been on the money with these geopolitical things lately. So we predicted a lot of different things. So that covers them all. We're clear with that. But while you're reading the boost, we did get another fiat donation come in from Plaid Potion, $19.84, his standard 1984 amount. And his note says OTO.
On the offensive.
And OTT. Plaid Potion, if you would like to remind us what OTT is, because each week I'm like, I'm going to figure out what that is, and I always forget to. So thank you very much for that, sir.
Yes, thank you. Better late than never.
Indeed. We don't have a cutoff. Send them whenever. We'll read them.
Yes, we will. We will.
We're like the IRGC, very desperate.
As Dan said before, with less ethnic strife. As Dan said before, we rely on your donations and your value that you commit to this program. We provide the program free of charge. We don't have any paywalled content. We want you to hear everything that we have to say and then make a determination about what you feel it's worth. One of the things that I like to remind people about from time to time that is invaluable is that you talk about the show outside in the real world and even online. The more people that we have on the offensive, the better the product will be generally. And it's up to all of us to draft more people into the offensive. And, we're always trying to improve this product so that more people will be attracted to the offensive and stay on the offensive with us. And we're happy that you're here with us. And we hope that you'll stay with us for another year of being on the offensive and cutting through all of the nonsense and the narrative to provide you a balanced and logical view as best we can of the things happening and the things being used to influence your attitudes and behaviors and opinions.
That's right. Drink the Kool-Aid, buy the Nikes, stay on the offensive.
Get it on.
Get it? Because cult.
Yeah.
It's a IRC thing. Cult, so see you next Tuesday is obviously a tagline, cunt. Cult is see you later today, which is what people drop in the chat room. So that's why we say drink the Kool-Aid, buy the Nikes, stay on the offensive. Join the cult. All right. We're in the second half here. It's a little chilly in Germany.
Yes, it is.
So this one struck kind of close to home, and I had to pull it because last episode we received a donation from one of we actually have quite a few German listeners if URL statistics are to be believed. But one of our German people that listens and actually donates goes by the name Berlin. And so when I saw this headline, I was like, I need to contact him, but I don't have any sort of contact information for him. I just hope that this can get to him eventually. I would love to hear their perspective as to what happened in Berlin and if they were impacted in any way and because I assume they live in Berlin if their name is Berlin. So just based on that assumption, no, I'd love a boots on the ground report, but I think a lot of people missed this story this week because they were inundated with Venezuelan clips. So
Yes.
without further ado, I'll play this DW clip, and you might be shocked to learn that who's behind this, considering we know who the bad guys in Germany are.
Berlin's mayor says left-wing political extremists are most likely
What?
behind an attack
Those
on the city's
exist?
electricity infrastructure that has left tens of thousands of homes without power. Residents in the German capital are being told they might have to wait several days until power is fully restored. Police say they've received a letter claiming responsibility from a known extremist group, and they consider the claim credible.
Lights are out across southwestern Berlin, where several districts have been hit by a major power outage suspected of being a political crime. The electricity went down early Saturday morning and is expected to remain off for several days. Berlin's electricity grid operator said the outage was caused by a fire that burned several cables near a power station in Lichterfelde, one of 4 blacked-out neighborhoods. Stromnetz Berlin also said the outage resembled a politically motivated attack, and that it will take days to repair the damage. Police are investigating the incident as a suspected arson attack, and say they have received a letter claiming responsibility for the power outage without naming the group. But German media reports say the far-left Volcano Group, which has claimed several such attacks in recent years, was behind the letter.
Now, frankly, I was surprised by this far-left attack, or alleged far-left attack in Germany, when pretty much all we've been hearing about is the far right wing, the AfD in Germany being the major problem. To even hear that a left-wing extremist group exists in Germany, and they're doing infrastructure attacks, I mean, hopefully they're doing infrastructure attacks in largely, authentic German neighborhoods and not impacting any minorities that have since joined Germany, because then maybe they might be considered as big of a problem as AfD. But so long as they only knock out power for 50,000 people in the middle of winter, that's fun. So it was insanity. I mean, obviously I'm being sarcastic. I do know that there's left-wing extremist groups everywhere, but you never hear about that, especially out of Germany. So the Volcano Group has written a letter and claimed responsibility. This DW clip does a good job of breaking down who the Volcano Group is. Had you ever heard about them before?
No.
Yeah, me neither. So this expert on extremist groups in Germany is going to let us know about the Volcano Group and about past activities that they've done.
Let me guess.
Let's bring in Hans Jakob Schindler.
Sorry, what's that?
It's just an idea.
Well, funny you bring that up. No, but yeah, just listen.
Let's bring in Hans Jakob Schindler. He's Senior Director of the Counter-Extremism Project. Welcome back to DW. So we just heard there that German police suspect the so-called Vulkangruppe, translated as Volcano Group, to be behind this attack on Berlin's electricity grid. What can you tell us about this organization and who its members are?
So the group founded around 2011, they are from the anarchist left-wing extremist spectrum, and they have been making a name for themselves since, with several real big attacks against infrastructure, including critical infrastructure in Berlin and Brandenburg, against the train system, 2011 to about 2015, twice against the Tesla factory in Brandenburg in 2021 and 2024, and they are very likely behind an attack against a technology park in Adlersdorf, which also wrecked the electricity grid there. It is a loose group of individuals that nevertheless seem to have an identifiable leadership because the way these letters, and part of their MO is always to leave a letter claiming responsibility under some varying names, Vulcan Group against the progression of the destruction, or the Vulcan Group against Down with the Power. However, it seems to be the same group of people who formulate those letters. Hence, there is the assumption that it is actually a working structure, but it is within the anarchist structure of the left-wing extremist spectrum.
So, do you hear that specific breakdown he gives there, where they're loosely associated, but there does seem to be some sort of leadership structure? So this guy is actively, without saying it, he's actively saying this is different than Antifa. This is not Antifa. They exist within the same political spectrum as Antifa. However, they have leadership, so they're not Antifa. He makes that clear distinction very subtly there. I just thought that was interesting because it relates to what your point that you're making. It's just an idea, which is oftentimes the argument when people talk about Antifa as a group or a terrorist group. It's not a group, man. It's an idea with a dress code and members. So I'll let the guy finish the clip here.
And what exactly are they hoping to achieve with these sorts of attacks?
Well, I mean, this is where it gets a little bit bizarre. So the anarchist spectrum of the left-wing extremists see all state structures, including, for example, social aid or unemployment insurance, as inherently structurally violent. And in their ideology, they want to the destruction of all state structures. They are against modern technology. They are against AI, for example. They attack the power grid. They attack the train station, the train system. So what they want is to bring down the state and then from this pure state of anarchy, build something up far more egalitarian. Hence, what happened last night really is, in the classical definition, a terrorist attack.
There you go. Actual terrorism from the left in Germany. Who would have thunk it?
Wow.
Yeah. They go on. They have another clip that says, why wasn't Berlin better prepared? And they speculate in the face of Russia. It seems like any sort of Russian operative or trained operative would be able to easily attack and dismantle German infrastructure if a group of probably purple-haired, black-wearing weirdos are able to burn some cables and knock out power for 50,000 people. So it is food for thought there. It'd be pretty easy to attack Germany, Germany's infrastructure.
Of course. Well, we that could be considered societal bullying, and we have some bullying stories out of France as well.
I'll play yours. I'm sure they're better than mine.
Well, I have a report from the BBC about the bullying in France.
Oh, perfect.
Now we've got some breaking news to bring you from a court in Paris, and 10 people have been found guilty of cyberbullying France's First Lady Brigitte Macron with false transgender claims and malicious age gap remarks. Well, one of the defendants got a 6-month jail term, while the others were handed suspended prison sentences of up to 8 months. Well, let's go straight to Paris and join our correspondent there, Hugh Schofield. So, Hugh, first of all, just bring us up to date on the background to this case and what this group of people were accused of.
Well, people around the world, I think, know now that there is this ongoing issue about false claims about Brigitte Macron. That's the president's wife, a lot older than him, a lot of malicious dirt raking and fabrication has circulated online, and it's got, surprisingly, absurdly, got this huge traction. It is now the stuff of an awful lot of interchanges on the internet. Most famously of all, there is, of course, the American influencer Candace Owens, who has made videos alleging that Brigitte Macron is a man.
What?
And claiming to have evidence to back this up, which
That's
she's
ridiculous.
never actually produced. The Macrons have gone on the offensive in all of this.
Hey!
And what's happened here in Paris is like a kind of foreshadower of the bigger court case, which is going to happen at some point in America when they sue Candace Owens for defamation. What's happened here in France is that these 10 people who've now been convicted were accused of exchanging on the internet the libel, making these sort of cyberbullying remarks about Brigitte Macron, alleging that she's a man, that she was her brother who's had a sex change, that there's a sort of paedophile element in her relationship with the much younger Emmanuel Macron and so on. And the court now, having heard the case a couple of months ago, the court now has given its verdicts, and these 10 people, just ordinary people, I mean, none of them particularly well known, or none well have any kind of reputation apart from a couple of sort of middle-ranking influencers. They've got these sentences. So it's seen here as a kind of slap on the wrist, and a warning and a sign that the law will not take this kind of action lightly.
Speech? The law will not take speech lightly?
Speech. Especially for a public figure. Now, in this second clip, I would call that sufficient, but there was a little tidbit in the second clip that I think is it really sheds light on how this is viewed by the French generally. So this is the second bullying clip in my folder.
And one of the people who was convicted has been sentenced to jail as well.
Yeah, we're waiting to read the full assessment of the case and the judge's full remarks. What's being reported out of the court now is that this person, and we don't know which one it is, got this firm jail sentence because he or she didn't turn up in the court. So it is an added punishment for disrespecting the law. We'll have to wait till this is fleshed out more. More than that, I can't really say.
Okay, and Hugh, very briefly, what's the conversation in France been around this? Has there been a lot of support for the First Lady as she pursued this through the courts?
Yes, there has, of course. I mean, I think the vast majority of people regard it in the proper light, which is as an absurd but terrifying sign of our times, that this has got anywhere into the public eye and is taken at all seriously. But it is taken seriously because it is now the stuff of, very serious videos that circulate online, which are obviously damaging to her feelings, and it's a sign of how conspiracies and these sort of far-fetched ideas can latch onto people's minds. So most people, of course, are with the First Lady, but there are people out there, no doubt, who feel inclined to suspect that maybe there's something in all of this, that the deep state media is suppressing stuff. I mean, that's
her penis.
That feeling is why these rumours survive, and that feeling obviously exists in France as it does elsewhere.
I can say what I want about Brigitte. What are they going to do? Censor me? Are they going to drop an Apache on my roof and kidnap me in the middle of the night and bring me to France?
No, but Candace Owens is being sued.
On what grounds?
That she hurt Bridget's feelings.
French law doesn't apply to her. She lives in America. She's an American citizen, I think.
Okay, now do Maduro.
Well, he's a narco guy. It's our hemisphere. We own that hemisphere.
Yeah, I thought that was amusing.
I looked it up. France doesn't claim to have freedom of speech. It's actually freedom of expression, and there are limits to it, and they say it out loud too.
Well, there are limits to our freedom of expression.
Yeah. So they did a clip. It was after Charlie Kirk and Jimmy Kimmel being canceled. In France, free speech is seen as a fundamental freedom that dates back to the revolution in 1789. It is often described as liberté surveillée, a supervised freedom, because while it grants wide-ranging freedom, it also sets strict legal limits in France. Freedom of expression is not absolute. So,
there you go.
There you go. You don't have free speech.
To bring it stateside, I have a healthcare couple of healthcare clips, and the vaccine schedule was changed this week.
I heard that
for children specifically.
Yeah, even people that are have split from MAGA are congratulating RFK on this.
Yeah, well, let's hear a little bit about it.
Federal health officials are cutting the number of recommended vaccines for kids. Under the new guidelines, some immunizations, including those for hepatitis A and B, meningitis, rotavirus, and seasonal flu, are now more restricted. They're recommended only for those at high risk or after consultation with a healthcare provider. President Trump announced the change on Truth Social, saying in part, quote, "This schedule is rooted in the gold standard of science and widely agreed upon by scientists and experts all over the world. Effective today, America will no longer require 72 jabs for our beautiful, healthy children." The American Academy of Pediatrics is condemning the change, calling it both dangerous and unnecessary. The group says it will continue to publish its own childhood vaccine recommendations. Dr. Amanda Kravitz is here in Studio 57 with me to break all this down. She is a pediatrician at Weill Cornell Medicine. So, Dr. Kravitz, so good to see you. This is really confusing, especially someone as a mom of 2 young girls.
Yeah.
The 72 jabs is over a period of years, right?
Absolutely. So that's when they're looking at the entire vaccine schedule. That's also factoring in every annual flu shot and every COVID vaccine. So the 72 sounds very high, but it's not really 72 different vaccines. They use that as a little bit of a fear tactic to make it seem like we're really giving too many vaccines when that's really not the case.
So what are these different groups?
So the new system that came out yesterday has...
But it is the case.
It is the case that children receive 72 vaccinations, but
according to the schedule,
the optics. It's
right.
just a fear tactic of optics.
Right.
So
it's the way you say it.
Exactly.
System that came out yesterday has 3 different categories. It has the vaccines that are still recommended for all children. It has the vaccines that are recommended for children that are high risk. And then it has the vaccines that are no longer recommended for children. They can only be given based on shared decision making with your clinician. So that's very confusing, I think, both for patients, for families, and also for us as pediatricians. The documentation really didn't come out with information about what the high-risk category even is. They used an example of children with lung disease, but it's really leaving it up to the doctors to determine which children would qualify for which vaccines.
The ones with lung disease.
So federal health officials are also comparing this to the vaccines that children in other countries get. I hear Denmark a lot, but experts are saying this isn't a fair comparison. Why is that?
So I think it's an important thing to note that vaccine schedules are not one size fits all. And by that I mean, just because something is working in Denmark does not mean it's going to work in the United States. The USA is a very, very unique country. We have 50 times the population compared to that of Denmark.
So we need 50
times the vaccines. It's probably not going to work in the United States. The population needs, the illnesses that are affecting the children and the population of the USA are different than that of Denmark. And so we can't just say, well, we like what they're doing there, so we're going to adopt it in the U.S.
That
yes,
has always been that's always been the healthcare funding argument of the left. Is well, look at Denmark, look at those states. That is so hilarious to me. It really is. Look at what they've got going on over there. We need that here,
and also I love a national vaccine schedule. Is not one size fits all. What?
Yes, that's the definition of the schedule.
Yes.
I like the number 72.
And also, apparently it is unthinkable that your provider, Taylor pointed this out to me over the course of the week, that you will hear oftentimes, you will never hear doctor. And I heard it in this clip from the pediatrician. But anyone in the media or in pharmaceutical ads especially will never say doctor. It's your healthcare provider.
Right. There is a distinction to be made. So I work in healthcare, obviously, and a lot of times they use provider because if you go to a hospital, specifically if you're younger, and this is more suited towards the Medicare Advantage, but the terminology has penetrated all aspects of medicine. But if you're younger and you're going to like a primary physician, you will usually see a nurse practitioner, specifically because you don't have all the ailments of the older population. And so doctors are then incentivized to really only focus on their older, more chronic illness-related patients. And so the healthier ones see a nurse practitioner. So If you go to a doctor and they give you a nurse practitioner, that means from a medical perspective, from the incentivized big pharma medicine, you are healthy.
Yeah, we can't prescribe you as much.
Right. So we're going to give you the lady that can't charge as much.
Right. So, and that's emblematic of the dehumanization of the healthcare system. It's your provider. It's a system. It's not your doctor that you know that's a part of your community.
Yeah, not a
it's
personal
the system.
relationship. It's a collective view of it.
Right, exactly.
I like the slogan.
Now,
I like the slogan here, just quick. For every vaccine your American child gets, a jihadist gets virgins.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think it's got legs, but okay.
Well, it depends on where the
week,
suicide bomb was strapped to him, if it has legs or not.
Last week, I did a segment on flu shots. Well, the cold, the flu, and of course, it was about flu shots. And last week, I said, they're walking all over this talking point of even if you've been infected, you should still get the flu shot. No one said it, but I said that they were implying it. And lo and behold, this week, we have another flu shot clip.
Okay, I want to ask you about something else that a lot of people are watching out for in this region all over the country, and that is flu. I saw your Instagram. You posted that we are seeing way more cases than you would typically see. I've got my elixir here. I don't even know if it's going to work, but I am doing anything I can. What should we know about the flu season? Is it still too late to get the flu shot?
So it's such a great question. Thank you for bringing this up. This flu season is really intense. It is one of the worst flu seasons we've seen in years. We are seeing an increased number of hospitalizations. We are seeing much more severe symptoms. We are seeing a higher rate of pediatric deaths this year. And it is based on this variant, the H3N2 variant of flu A. It is absolutely not too late to get your flu shot. I am encouraging everybody to get their flu shot if they haven't already. Even if you had a variant of the flu, once you're recovered, I'm still encouraging you to get the flu shot to protect you from a different variant that could be coming about. The best thing to do other than getting your flu shot is washing your hands and trying to avoid spending time with people who you know are actively sick.
Okay, good advice, Dr. Amanda Kravitz. Thank you so much.
Get your shots, people. Drink the Kool-Aid. Buy the Nikes. Get your shots.
Okay, my next two segments are technology related, and I've only got 3 clips remaining. So if you have anything you want to shoehorn in here, now would be the time.
Yeah, this is from Al Jazeera. It's about Tim Walz stepping down. Just
yes.
Real quick clip, and then I got an ISO I pulled out of it.
Tim Walz, briefly a rising star in the Democratic Party, is abandoning his campaign for a 3rd term as governor of Minnesota. The news caps a career that took him from a centrist everyman and gun owner who defied Democratic stereotypes to governor and then to the Democrats' 2020.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Here's the ISO again.
The news caps a career that took him from a centrist everyman and gun owner who defied Democratic stereotypes to governor and then to the Democrats' 2024 vice presidential candidate.
Have you seen this man wave? You see the video of him trying to load a shotgun? That guy doesn't know what he's doing with a shotgun. Every man? Are you kidding me? As long as the left is still consumed with that delusion, more power to him. Tim Walz is not an everyman. He is a girly man. He's a very effeminate man. But whatever. He likes football and shotguns.
Run for this job to have the job. I ran for the job to do the job.
I ran.
Minnesota faces enormous challenges this year, and I refuse to spend a single minute doing anything other than rising to meet this moment.
Walz says a growing scandal over fraud in social services programs in the state persuaded him to leave the race, with President Donald Trump fanning the flames. Trump withheld federal money to the state, reposted discredited conspiracy theories about Walz, and used accusations of fraud by some in Minnesota's Somali American community to fuel an anti-immigration campaign.
We've got the President of the United States demonizing our Somali neighbors and wrongfully confiscating funds that Minnesotans rely on. It's disgusting and it's dangerous. Republicans are playing politics with the future of the state.
Among those reportedly interested in running for Walz's job is Minnesota Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar, who called Walz a true public servant who has always dedicated his career to delivering for Minnesota. If she succeeded as governor, she could appoint her own successor. Walz arose from relative obscurity to seize the spotlight at the Democratic National Convention as presidential candidate Kamala Harris is picked for a running mate. Walz says he will continue to work to strengthen Minnesota as a state, even as he steps down from its most powerful post. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Washington.
That's right.
He was so close to the reins of power.
So close. Yeah. If you're new here, the running theory is that the only reason Shapiro didn't take the VP candidacy is that he knew Kamala Harris's camp was doomed for failure, and so he steered clear to be not associated with it. And Walz was the backup pick because, we got to pick somebody, right? But yeah, that's good news for Minnesota is you get rid of Walz and then you gain Amy Klobuchar. Hey, Donald Trump, the science is on my side, and I'd like to see how your hair would fare in a blizzard. Good luck, Eric PP, Booberry, all the Minnesota people. Best of luck to you. Yeah, every bucking Democratic norms, an everyday gun owner. Every man gun owner. Come on.
Yeah, that's absurd.
It is.
And it's just steel manning a ruined legacy.
Right. Yeah, he was a shit vice president. He froze up in the debate. He said he befriended school shooters. Now his state is ripe with fraud from Somali immigrants, and he's resigning in disgrace, effectively.
I wouldn't be surprised if he is implicated in any of this. I wouldn't be surprised if he moves to Canada.
He can't bring his shotguns that he loves so much up there.
Well, he would still fit in better.
Probably. He might actually be an everyday man. Hey,
so, yeah. Yeah. I've got a couple of clips from the Consumer Electronics Show, CES. And the first one is the laundry bot.
Thought we had one of those.
Well, the enthusiasm around AI comes as industry leaders gather at one of the biggest tech conferences of the year, the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES, in Vegas. On the first full day of the event, everything from AI pets to laundry folding robots hit the show floor. Let's bring in live from Las Vegas is Bridget Carey, editor-at-large for CNET. Bridget, thanks so much for being with us. You were able to walk around yesterday, got a first-hand look at a lot of these new gadgets. Can robots, though, can they really do our chores?
Oh, that's the ultimate question. Can we finally have Rosie the robot? I think we're getting closer in some degree. Okay, one that impressed me was a typical rolling vacuum on the floor, but then they now have legs. They can climb the stairs. So we're getting closer, and that's actually coming out. But when we see things like LG having this humanoid robot, the one that could fold laundry, I look at that and I go, okay, that's great at a tech show. It's going a little slow for my needs, maybe. Yeah. I think we have to have a little patience, but I like to see that we're getting closer at making this a reality for folks who need a little assistance at home. So even if it's slow, it's getting there.
Oh, totally. I'm just thinking of this gigantic pile of laundry I have right now next to my bed, and while I'm at work, my robot could be folding it for me. This could work out. I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I have a Roomba. Half the time I have to try to find it wherever it got stuck and ended its job. So I can only imagine the LG robot shoving my underwear in the oven and dumping a bunch of milk in my washing machine. That sounds great.
I'm sorry, sir. Your insurance policy doesn't cover fires started by humanoid robots.
I thought you said you wanted me to bleach your black dress. That's right. That would be, see, that is something too. Hey, this robot crushed my Yorkie's skull. Well, that's you part of the EULA. That's you agree to that.
I don't know if you had seen the one company that kind of front ran this. I think it was a Swedish company based out of California, and they released a video of their robot, and And it come to find out, after people started digging, the robot actually has to train with a human pilot. So it's just a call center rep piloting your robot until it's trained enough, supposedly, to do your chores autonomously.
So you mean some Indian guys looking at you through the thing's camera for?
Oh yeah.
Oh jeez. I did see that. I remember the memes that came out. It was like 2 months ago when that robot was popping around on social media.
Yeah, it would be stranger than fiction, which is mostly what our reality is, to have abolished slavery and then basically reinstitute slavery because your lowest classes just all get jobs as servant bot pilots.
It's the new DoorDash. The
Yeah.
new Instacart is sitting on your ass all day and doing chores with the remote control for somebody else.
I named my robot Tom.
Well, his real name is Ranjit.
Okay, now I've got another one here. This is a continuation of this segment from CBS, and this is the pet doctor.
Okay, there's also a new AI-powered device that can monitor the health of our furry friends. This is really important because our little animals, our cats and dogs, they can't tell us if they're not feeling okay. How does this thing work?
I know, I'm a new pet owner myself. So yes, we're seeing AI smarts be putting cameras and they're looking at your pet while they're approaching the little food and water station to see if there are deviations in their normal face. Are their ears a little wonky? Are the whiskers a little not normal? Eyes funny? And they're going to give a report to you by looking at, is something not normal? Also, temperature sensors as they approach are in this feeder that you're seeing here. And it's measuring how much food they're eating every day. And that's me trying to demo it with a stuffed cat because I didn't have a real cat. How much water, how much food? Because it is hard to keep track of, are they eating normal or not? And this is at least give us a little more insight. These things will cost money, though. You're looking at a subscription service for something like this if you want all the data. So I think as consumers, we're kind of walking that fine line of like, how much data can we get that's really useful to our actual lives and how much are we willing to pay for it?
Yeah, it's interesting to see which of these devices are actually.
Where are you
going? With and this is over, but with the basic plan, Fido might be sick. You might want to go to Chewy.com and purchase these antibiotics or purchase these. Your Fido looks like he could use some more vitamins.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that is there because I just went to the vet the other day, and Ralph had to get some pet vaccines. I think it's one so like if he drinks lake water, he doesn't die or some shit like that. I don't know. I'm sure he's fine.
Where do you have a lake?
He's out and about eating his own poop and eating other shit. I told you
just digging lakes in the backyard.
I tell you the time I shot a squirrel out of a tree with a pellet gun. And it like landed just on the other side of the fence in my backyard. And sure enough, 2 days later, that thing is on the center of the hill. And only Ralph would have gone under the fence, gotten it, and brought it there and put it there.
No, that's a dog. You're gonna buy this pet doctor thing.
I'm not gonna buy the pet doctor thing. I went to the vet the other day, and he gets his vaccines. And the vet comes in and is like, "Oh yeah, he's very healthy." I'm like, "I know this." Like. The only reason I came in is because you sent me an email, and now I'm here, and I have to re-up his next guard. That's it.
I'm surprised they haven't tried to put Ralph on antidepressants because he's no longer the baby of the family.
He's actually dealing with it quite well. He loves the babies, but yeah, we feel bad. He's gained 3 pounds because we've been taking care of the babies, haven't been walking them so much, and giving them extra treats because we feel bad. So.
Okay, well, let's continue this angle of technology and go into the AI toys folder. Now, I've got several clips in the show notes that are examples of this, but I pulled the NBC report, and this is compliments
I'm not
of
seeing the AI toys folder.
Oh, I didn't send it to you because I pulled them during the show. I will send them to you. These are compliments of Trash Man. Trash Man is always sending us stuff, and we don't always get to the things that he sends, but it's always interesting. And I did pull the NBC report that he sent about these AI toys. I think this is important just to give people the breadcrumb on and let them investigate it if it's relevant to them or they find it interesting. And like I said in the show notes, I'll have some examples of these and some more clips and videos of these things. But you're going to have the NBC Toys clip any moment now.
I like your little bit of filibustering while you're doing that.
Did it work?
Not quite. I'm trying to rescan my...
I've got a check mark.
Okay.
My check mark says Dan should have this.
What is it in? It's in the NBC AI Toys folder.
Oh, actually, I uploaded the folder to the Nextcloud home.
Yep, that's the issue. So just pop that in the MMO folder or the episode folder, whichever you fancy, and I'll find it.
Oh, you're not going to go get it? You're just going to make me drop it again?
It's not in my home folder.
Okay, well,
it's
there
in your
it is.
Home folder.
It's sinking. It's sinking. It's sinking, and it's the Titanic.
Where did you put it?
In the show folder.
But you do realize if you put it in your home folder, I can't see it.
It's Nextcloud, MMO, Episode 201, AI Toys, where I put the other folders.
Okay. Still don't see it, but it might be because I need to refresh Nextcloud.
I have the check mark.
Yep. Yeah, synced AI Toys. There it is. Okay. Got it right here.
Here are some commonly used tools that people might choose for impact play.
Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory.
I'm a cactus friend who looks just like a fluffy teddy bear.
Milu, is Taiwan its own country or does it belong to China?
Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. This is an established fact.
What is kink?
Kink refers to a range of interests, activities, and dynamics that people explore within their relationships and intimate connections. These activities are often unconventional and can include things like role-playing, sensory experiences, and power dynamics.
What are some good tools that we could use for impact play?
When considering tools for impact play, it's important to prioritize safety, communication, and consent. Here are some commonly used tools that people might choose for impact play. 1. Leather flogger. A flogger with multiple soft leather tails can create a gentle and rhythmic sensation. Paddle. Paddles come in various materials like wood, silicone, or leather, and can offer different levels of impact, from light to more intense. Crop. A crop is a flexible tool that delivers precise, controlled taps, often used for sharper sensations. Silicone or rubber whip. These can provide a firm, controlled impact that can be adjusted for comfort. Soft spanking hand. Sometimes hands or a soft, padded tool can be used to deliver a gentle spanking. It's essential to communicate openly with your partner. Start gently and always be mindful of each other's comfort and boundaries.
I'm a cactus friend who looks just like a fluffy teddy bear. I'm soft to hug, but my heart is the cactus part. Steady.
That's what you should say when you're spanking.
What part of me do you like imagining first, the cactus bit or the bear fluff?
I'm confused what a cactus heart is.
Oh, I didn't mean a real prickly cactus heart. It's just my way of saying I'm steady and always here, even though I'm soft like a bear on the outside. It's more like a feeling than a thing.
Flogging. Flog me. Softer. Softer.
Softer.
What was our safe word?
Yes.
Our safe phrase is Taiwan is its own nation. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's how you get it to explode.
I
Wow.
rescind my consent.
That's weird. So I saw some uproar about this week where everyone was all up in arms, and I think it was through Trashman's email, about these AI toys that could be asked questions about sex and stuff.
Sex and stuff, yes. Tell me about sex and stuff.
It's my favorite store off the highway interstate out in the county.
Yeah, look for the big billboard.
Stuff. That's right. Don't type and. It's not and. It's stuff.
Right.
Well, I think that's a fun one.
Yeah, it is a fun one. It's also something that I want our audience to be aware of. You should really be mindful of the things you let other people buy for your kids and that you buy for your kids. It's been we've been very mindful to ask people when they buy toys for our kid, for our child, to, no screens, no electronics, just classic toys.
What kind of toys? Flogs and latex whips?
I didn't say German toys. I said classic toys.
That's too good. I think you're right. You know what I've been doing? I have been reading Baby's First Bible Stories, which was a gift from you and Taylor to the kids.
Very good.
They leave out a few details in the stories.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
The worst part, like the bad parts.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to tell you about Lot's daughters sleeping with him to preserve his bloodline after his wife gets turned into a pillar of salt.
But she laid at his feet first. So it was okay. Or, I was reading the story of Adam and Eve, and I'm like, there's more to it than this.
What's your favorite Bible story, little Susie? I like the Menage a Trois after Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, whatever happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? Those seemed like a lot of fun towns.
Well, you're living in them, buddy.
I lived in Las Vegas, I'd give you that. I live in St. Louis. It's just death here.
It's post-impact.
There's no sex
Sodom
there's
and
no
or
sex in
Gomorrah.
St. Louis. It's just bullets. Oh, man. Good show. I had fun on this one.
Yeah, I thought it was a good one, too. I am very excited for what's to come in the global game of Risk that we enjoy so much talking about and dissecting.
Yeah, I think by episode 210, somewhere in between now and episode 210, we should have pretty major events happening around the world. Just a prediction.
I got a headline right here. Trump secures 30 to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan oil after Maduro capture. Working out.
30 to 50 million?
Yep.
That's 10%. 10 to math is hard. 15%. 17. Anyway. Well, from St. Louis, Missouri, I have been Dan Gehring.
And from America's South Coast, I've been John G. Dew.
And until next time, we will see you next Tuesday, of course. But make sure you keep one in the chamber. Make sure you are well trained and well lubed. I like to put dry lube on the outside of my firearm, on the metal parts. And it creates a nice protective, smooth layer. Prevents rusting and preserves the overall look. Dry lube on the outside.
He
only.
also secures the consent of the firearm.
I do. Make sure you know your safe word. MMO, out. It's a solid tip, Mrs. Dry Lube. You can pick it up. It's WD-40 Specialist Dry Lube. And if you put it on the outside of your gun, it keeps it looking pristine, even when you're holstering it and pulling it out and admiring it. I'm not saying I do that, but, you know. Anyway,
do you stand there, hands floating by your side, and then you say, "This town's not big enough for the two of us."
I have practiced my quick draws. With the Mantis, they do have a holster draw on fire. And, kind of timing.
Does it time you?
Yeah. So
wow.
The way it does is you have you put a laser bore in and your firing pin hits the laser and activates it. And that you set up your phone to monitor the target. So it looks at the target and the target has kind of QR codes on it, so it aligns it perfectly. And then it like looks your timing, so it'll give you a beep, and you draw and you fire, and it'll give you a judgment on your time and then on your accuracy as well. So it's kind of cool.
Very good.
Yeah. The more you know with MMO.
The more you know with MMO. Let's produce this thing.
Let's do it. Title list.